Chapter 30. A letter. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the troll incident, Hogwarts experienced several changes. For example, a few Aurors of the Minister's Choice were instated along with other security measures. And alarm systems were installed, so that the others can be informed if such a thing happens again and prevent a troll from going on a killing spree. But it wasn't actually that big of a deal. Hogwarts is relatively safe compared to other magical schools. And the student who was in the middle of all of it, Axel Hunt, was having his own share of complications. What the fuck? Is this woman crazy or something? He thought as he looked at the letter from the Minister of Magic herself. After the recent events, he had expected many things, but never did he expect this. It doesn't make sense at all. Dear Axel, I know that I'm probably your most hated person in the world, and I know that almost anything I do to remedy that might only make you resent me more, but I just wanted you to know that I have really regretted what I did to you that day. I know that nothing I can do to remedy that, but there are certain things that can be remedied. I have been trying to search for a way to heal you. There isn't much I have found yet, but there is still a good chance that I might find something. Meanwhile, there are other things I have sent so that you don't have to associate with someone to get something. I know I can't take back what I said, but I'm trying to make up for it. Please consider joining us for the Christmas holidays. I'd like to tell you some things about your father. Waiting for your response. Best wishes, Bellatrix Black. Rip. The only thing this letter managed to do was rip open the weak band-aid he had managed to put over the wound he could only remember as the blackest day of his life. Bullshit, he muttered as he crumpled the letter and threw it in the corner of his bag along with the small purse she had sent him without even checking its contents. He already has felt so much reluctance and repugnance just by using what Andromeda had sent him. And that woman could be considered a saint if compared to BBWWBB, biggest bitch worldwide, Bellatrix Black. So, he didn't even consider using it. He was a thief with principles. And what was she implying anything when he said he didn't have to associate himself with? She is only sending this after seeing his picture with a rich girl sleeping next to his bed. What could be the implications? That he's some gigolo. He is not. And what would it make him if he accepted any help from the woman who has metaphorically stripped him naked and taken his dignity as a person just for her amusement? Accepting her help would definitely make him someone much worse than a gigolo. And she knows about his father. Well, this is somewhat new. Axel recalled the dream he'd seen on Halloween Eve. Right after seeing that dream, he had been attacked by the troll right after he woke up and then saw a girl blow its head off, right after which the teachers came and he ran and got attacked by dementors, and woke up to find himself in trouble due to a photo. So, he couldn't be blamed if he forgot most of the dream and couldn't recall it. The only thing he could recall was a man and a woman, who were definitely his parents, leaving him with the caretaker of the orphanage. So, he also couldn't be blamed if he didn't want to know about his parents. He just wanted to have nothing to do with this woman until the day he makes her kneel in front of him as he does things to her that are a lot worse than things she'd done to him. Thus, for now, he went out of his way and instead of just a few words, wrote her a polite and detailed response that'll hopefully keep her out of his goddamn life until that time. That is quite brutal, Axel. Axel shrugged. I wouldn't know. But I do feel better after writing it. He thought that to the system. He had ranted everything in the letter. After that, almost everything had gone back to normal, except some people still had some problems. What are we going to do about him? Asked a fourth-year student in a somewhat heated tone. He had blonde hair, styled in a faux hawk, and handsome features. Don't be an idiot, Damien. He's under that girl's protection now, said Alaric Malcolm, the head boy. He also had blonde hair, but his hair was combed back neatly. But brother. You know, and everyone knows that I've liked her for 3 years. And I didn't even get to talk to her properly all this time. And now some brat comes and gets so close to her. We cannot let this pass. Get over it, Damien. If we can't have the connection with that family through you, then at least don't make them our enemies. Are we clear? Asked Alaric seriously. Damien's hands clenched into fists, but he still nodded. I'll be careful. You'd better. You're not a child anymore, so you should start using your head now. Saying that, Alaric walked away. And Damien, who was about to show more frustration, suddenly stopped as he used his head. They just couldn't offend the Valentino family, right? But what if no one knows who did it? Now, the question was, when to do this. He'll have to wait for the right opportunity. Time skip. 1 month. Position, aim, fire. Flipendo. Position, aim, fire. Flipendo. Position, aim, fire. Flipendo. It was early morning and dueling class for first years was going on in the arena with numerous training dummies lined up and students practicing on each of them in groups. Position, aim, fire. Flipendo. On every firing command of Professor Alice, the students, standing a fair distance away from the dummies, would chant the spell and try to hit the training dummies in the small circle drawn on the center of their chest. This wasn't the first time this drill was taking place, and very few students were able to properly hit the target from such a distance. Don't exaggerate the wand movements. It'll only deviate from your aim. Keep your hand, shoulder, and wrist firm, or the kickback will shift the trajectory, and in such a long distance, it'll be enough to miss the target, said Professor Alice as she repeatedly tapped her wand on her palm, looking stern. Hey Hannah, you're doing it wrong. You're supposed to keep your hand extended out completely, elevated up to the eye level for better aim, said Hermione Granger, who was in the same group as Rose's friends. Well, the loner girl had made new friends in the past few months. Hannah, who had been trying her best and was a bit happy with her progress, immediately got deflated at that. Hey, it's not necessarily wrong. And she's doing just fine, all right. Spoke Susan, Hannah's knight in shining armor. Rose, you have to beat the evil Slytherins in the match today, all right. Said Neville as he fired a spell and missed. Shut up, Neville. Not all Slytherins are evil, said Daphne, who was also in the same group. During these months, Daphne had become better friends with Hermione rather than the other Ravenclaws, and due to that, Hermione had gotten on friendly terms with the rest of the Golden Quintet. Today, they were practicing their aim, and Professor Alice had divided the students into groups of 7 due to the limited number of training dummies. And since all the houses were here, these 6 friends had gotten into the same group. Daphne looked around the huge arena, searching for other groups, and Rose was also secretly doing the same. Where the fuck is he? Curious, now where did that guy go? Annoyed, and at this moment, the guy in question finally showed up at the door with dark circles beneath his eyes and his long hair looking disheveled. Due to his nightly activities, which included sneaking into people's bedrooms, along with his endless training, he had been unable to get much sleep at night and was dead tired due to the exercises. And this goddamn dueling class is being held in the early morning, even before the normal class start. You're late, Mr. Hunt. We're training in groups of 7. You can join Little Levi's, Mr. Longbottom's group. It has a vacancy. In Neville's group. Rose gave Neville a questioning look. I thought your mum said all Slytherins were evil. She asked sarcastically. If she had taught him so, then why would she send a Slytherin to his group? Personally, she still couldn't decide whether Axel Hunt was a good guy or the evilest of them all. Neville looked away. Well, my dad, and uncle think to say it all the time. Mum should also think the same, right? He said in puzzlement. When Professor Alice recommended him to join Neville's group, Axel, who was just searching for a group, paused in his steps as he looked towards Neville's group. Is this hell? He thought when he saw the people in the group. Except for Daphne, he was on bad terms with everyone else in that group. Professor Alice didn't seem to have plans of continuing before he joined the group. This woman had treated him fairly until now, so he didn't want to just openly defy her suggestion in front of hundreds of students. And most importantly, he couldn't even find other groups with vacancies in such a short time. Thus, with a sigh, he decided to just join the group he was assigned. "You look like a mess," commented Daphne as soon as Axel came beside her. "Yeah, good morning to you too," he muttered with a yawn as he took out his wand. His wand hummed as it shot out small pink sparks to greet him. Axel just squeezed it a little bit in return. As for his greetings to the wand, Daphne wasn't someone who'd mind, but he didn't fancy talking to a wand in front of others. Taking a deep breath, his eyes focused and his slouching posture straightened. Taking a stance, he fired his shot at the dummy. Dang, and the spell hit near the center circle. "Hey, how'd you do that?" asked Rose as she looked at Axel's constantly shaking hand which loosely held the wand. There was no way anyone would be able to be accurate with that kind of hand. She wondered if it was a lucky shot. They were standing quite the distance away from the dummy. "Yeah, you used to suck bad at this," commented Daphne. This wasn't the first time this activity had been organized. The last time she had seen him shoot, he was pathetically bad at this. His spells were so weak that they wouldn't even form properly sometimes and his aim would always be a mile off. Axel shrugged. "I practiced," he said dismissively. His aim was shit due to his injuries and his power output was so weak that spell.beam.type spells were inaccessible to him. Even in his duel with Draco, he had only used one spell and that spell was also something he had to charge 2 times to give some damage. But due to his hard work and the information and the knowledge he had gotten from the system, he had improved a lot in the past 3 months. With the diet of magical ingredients and exercises, his body is much more attuned to magic, making it easier for it to be channeled even through his damaged nerves and the bond with his wand was stronger than ever. Due to this, his power output was now strong enough that he could use the beam.type spells. As for his aim, his body did heal a little bit during this time and, wand aim. 8%, he had made progress in this skill. It wasn't much of a complex skill either. His mastery would be quite high if he wasn't crippled. Axel's short answer didn't satisfy anyone, especially as they looked at the trembling hand. "Come on Rose, it was just a lucky shot. It's not possible to be accurate in that condition," said Neville. Axel just ignored everyone as he shot out a few more spells, almost all of them hitting the dummy. "How are you doing this? You aren't doing the wand movement and also, the professor said we can't hit the target without keeping our hands steady," questioned Hermione who couldn't take it anymore. She was quite jealous that he was under the protection of her idol, Martina Valentino. Hermione had thought that she'd be the only one to receive Martina's attention but after Halloween, things had changed. Seeing that they weren't practicing and only disturbing him, he decided to satisfy their curiosity and be done with it. "It's not a big deal. I'm just holding my wand straight up and have it pointing at the dummy," he said, holding out his wand and aiming at the dummy's midpoint. "Now, if my hand doesn't shake, the spell will directly hit the bullseye. But, since it's shaking so much, it'll definitely deviate in some direction which will totally mess up my aim. So, I just need to anticipate which direction it'll shift and move my hand in the other direction to some degree to cancel it. Now, the only problem is that, my hand doesn't really respond well to whatever I want it to do, so before even shifting my hand, I also have to calculate how much deviation will be caused due to my hand not responding exactly as I want it to be and move my hand after taking these 2 factors into consideration. Now, if everything is correct, I should be able to hit the bullseye, but as you can see, I still need a lot of practice. That clear enough for you?" Times 6. The whole group went speechless at that. Some because they didn't understand everything and some because they understood everything he had said. "Just, how would it be if he was completely healed?" asked Hannah, looking a bit terrified. Hearing that, everyone had goosebumps looking at Axel firing away at the target. Axel just shook his head. He hadn't even included how he also has to take the kickback/recoil caused by the spell into consideration. With his weak wrist and fingers, it's already a struggle to keep the wand in hand and not drop it. But, he has to say, it's not that bad. He wouldn't have been this good at certain things if he'd been completely healed. For example, he'd never have worked on his aim and power output since it wouldn't have been a problem. Yes, he'd have been a much better magician, duelist, and fighter than he is right now, but he wouldn't have had many things that he had enhanced now. And now when he's healed, he'll have all the things he's supposed to have and the things he's gained due to this urgency of improvement due to his weaknesses. Though, I'd still rather avoid being a cripple if given a chance, he lamented. After all, 3 months was such a small time. He may have improved faster than anyone, but all things considered, he's still quite weak in a fight. That's why, Flipendo. He began training seriously. Though, the same couldn't be said for the rest. The students of all 4 houses were quite distracted today. Because, today noon, it was Gryffindor v/S Slytherin, the start of Quidditch season. And also, the meeting day. Normally, it wouldn't have been this much of a big deal, but several factors have led to increasing the hype by a lot. First of all, the girl who lived is going to be participating in this match, getting selected in her very first year. Then there was a different reason as well. A bigger reason. Apparently, the conflicts between the Slytherins and other houses have been slowly escalating for some reason, making Slytherin quite hated by the other 4 houses. And now, most of the Hogwarts population wanted to see Slytherins getting their ass beaten. As they practiced, Daphne turned to Axel. "Would you like to come and see the match with us?" she asked. Axel looked at her absurdly. "You're going? Didn't you find it quite meaningless?" he asked. Daphne shrugged. "Have to cheer for my girl Rose. At least tell me you're coming so that I won't have to suffer alone." Axel shook his head. "Not coming," he answered. Sure, he was a bit interested in Quidditch, but he didn't want to waste his time. Daphne sighed. She didn't try to persuade him otherwise since, for Axel, no means no. Unless. I had hoped that it wouldn't come to this, but it seems I have no choice. I'm calling in my favor for doing a majority of your homework for the past month. It's your choice now. Axel looked at her in annoyance. Seriously. This is how you waste that favor. Hey. I think it's worth it. Homework wasn't that big of a deal since they both had the same homework, only different times of submission. And she didn't even have to write his homework since he was allowed self-writing pens. On the other hand, Rose listened to the banter between the two speechlessly. Axel could actually willingly talk that much. And is that a hint of a smile she's seeing tugging at the corner of his mouth? Susan was much more vocal about it. Hey. How come you're such good friends with her but not with me? This is unfair. Axel and Daphne rolled their eyes. We're not friends. AN flags. What does meeting day mean? Find out in the. Axel's response to Bellatrix also in the title. Reunion. Just keep giving POWSTONES. And keep coming back. I need traffic here to keep me motivated. Read ahead and support this unique work. Join us at Patreon. Patreon.com/snollygoster. Chapter 31. A Letter and Reunion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the past decade, the Wizarding Britain and Hogwarts have experienced changes in various fields. One of these fields also happened to be Quidditch. The popularity of the sport is at an all-time high. And with the huge population at Hogwarts, the Quidditch field needed some changes. The stands are nowhere to be seen as there is a stadium all around the pitch now, to accommodate all the audience. And today was a special day. Because today was Gryffindor v/S Slytherin and the start of the season. So even the bigger stadium was bound to be packed. After breakfast, Rose and her friends made their way to the Quidditch stadium. And of course, since Axel had already given his word, he had to join them for it. Hermione had chosen not to come though. I have so much to study. Hey Susan, is your aunt coming? Asked Daphne as they walked. A question mark popped up on Axel's head. He didn't know why Susan's aunt would be coming. Susan nodded excitedly. Yep, she is. Though, not for the match of course. She's just coming to see me. I don't even know if she'll be able to stay for the whole match. What about you, Rose? She asked Rose, who was walking ahead of all of them. What the heck? Axel didn't like where this was going. Not one bit. Rose, who was decked out in her Quidditch attire, nodded excitedly. I know for a fact that Sirius is definitely coming. He's such a Quidditch fanatic. Little Jamie would also be coming since he misses his big sister a lot. I don't know about the rest. Hey, what are they talking about? Axel asked Daphne in a low voice. Daphne looked at him in puzzlement. What are you talking about? I mean, how are their relatives coming to Hogwarts? He whispered. Daphne blinked. Wait, you didn't know. Today is also the meeting day. Outsiders are allowed entry into the Quidditch stadium on matches. That's always half of the reason why everybody's been waiting for this day, she said, looking surprised that he didn't know that. With such a large stadium, anyone was welcome on the match days. Parents, Quidditch fanatics, and even the selectors of league teams looking to sign up promising players. Really, how can you not know any of this? She muttered in exasperation. It was even brought up in the announcements by Dumbledore. Axel just shrugged. Well, at least that explains why you're dragging me half an hour early. He rarely goes to the Great Hall these days, and the only person he ever talks to is Daphne. So it wasn't a big deal if he didn't know. My dad is busy. But my gran is coming. And of course, I met my mother only this morning, offered Neville. What about you, Daph? Are Astoria and Mrs. Greengrass coming? Asked Rose. Daphne checked her Magi.mirror once again. No, they can't make it today, they're out of Britain, she said a bit anxiously. What? What do you mean out of Britain? Asked Susan. Axel didn't pay attention to the rest of the conversation as he was too distracted in understanding the implications of the information he had received. They reached the stadium where there was a long stream of people entering the stadium. The scene around here was quite heartwarming as many parents were coming here from Hogsmeade and reuniting with their children after a long time. As they reached the entrance, Axel saw everyone taking out tickets. Wait, did we have to buy tickets? He asked. Daphne waved the 2 tickets in her hands. Don't worry. I already bought 2 for us days ago, she said proudly. Axel looked at her in bafflement, but, you only asked me today. Daphne tilted her head, so. Hey. Isn't that Potter? Yeah, that's her. Axel couldn't continue the conversation since they had to quickly go in as Rose's Gryffindor Quidditch attire was too eye-catching among the crowd. So, where are our seats? Asked Axel after seeing that they were not separating from the rest. He had thought that in such a huge stadium, they would be able to sit away from the rest since everyone would be going to see their relatives. The VIP box, of course. It's the best place to see the match, said Daphne, making Axel pause his footsteps. Hey, why don't we sit somewhere else? I don't want to sit there, said Axel. VIP box is going to have all kinds of people. No. Rose, why? Daphne, Axel and Daphne both looked at Rose, who had an unexpected outburst. Upon being stared at by the two, Rose looked away. I mean, it's none of my business, she muttered. Daphne then looked at Axel funnily. All seats of this stadium have already been booked. And why do you want to sit somewhere else? She asked, but she then remembered his habit of avoiding people. Or are you saying you don't have the balls? She asked, quoting his words. Maybe I should tone down with profanities. She learns fast, he thought. His words were now being used on himself now. That pissed Axel off. He wasn't scared, he just wanted to avoid the Black family. But now that he thought about it after putting away his dislike, going there also has its advantages. You know what? Let's go, he said as he began walking once again. The VIP box turned out to be quite VIP-ish. The whole place was air-conditioned, with a big balcony overlooking the stadium and lots of screens inside. The people inside seemed all rich and high class. And the Black family was also among these people. When is Big Sister coming? Asked a cute chubby boy with black hair. She'll be here any minute, Jamie. Just wait patiently, said Marlene in a gentle tone. Still can't believe it's already her first match. James will be proud, said Sirius proudly. And what about Lily? Asked Andromeda in amusement. Sirius barked out a laugh. Oh, Lily would definitely jinx the shit out of me. I tell you, that women would go to scary lengths to protect Rose, he muttered as he sipped the drink in his hand. Andromeda shook her head. Well, you shouldn't have egged her on so much in the first place, said Andromeda as she looked at the door yet again. She was also waiting to meet Rose, but there was another person who took priority. Axel Hunt. She was filled with regret about the whole series of events that had happened concerning him. First of all, the boy was the son of Bellatrix's benefactor and lifesaver. But he has had to live an orphan and miserable life until 11. But the boy somehow managed to get by despite the hardships. And after that, he suffered from the worst torture possible and had to survive by killing his adversary. Going through this, at the age of 11, he'd have to be an enigma if he came out sane. But the fact is, he somehow managed to pull it off. But he had to pay the price. It made him crippled for life. Still, the boy didn't show weakness. He didn't break. He didn't lose the fight in him. But it doesn't end here, because a certain thoughtless woman had to get some information out of him about how he managed to pull it off. But, without even trying to, the boy managed to make her realize just how wrong her actions were and change her mind. But unfortunately, even that wasn't enough. Because that thoughtless woman had a mad sister who thought it would be fun to torture this boy further. She managed to break him, for a few seconds. But against all odds, the boy managed to build himself up once again, stronger than ever. This should be it, right? There should be nothing more, right? Sadly no. Andromeda sighed. Her idiot sister, in her desperate moment, had sent out a letter to the boy who hates her with passion. What's worse, the words might have made him more enraged than calm his anger down. And she was right. Because the reply he had sent in response to that letter, had managed to cut through Bella like a knife through butter. Andromeda shuddered as she recalled the contents of the letter. Minister Black, I will have to respectfully decline your help. And there are several reasons due to which I've come to this decision. First of all, I was but a gullible kid who was very easy to manipulate. But, you have enlightened me, Minister, that I am not that kid who would take anything for granted. Like Andromeda, you are a Black. And thus, you are no kind woman. You have slapped me awake to the reality of the world, Minister. That is why, I know that you can't be doing this out of the kindness of your heart. How long have I known you for? Inato understand that you are as trustworthy as my parents. And my parents left me at the orphanage with a man who kicked me out. Trustworthy indeed. It would certainly explain why you know my dad. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to know nothing more about the man, or you. I am simply unworthy. As you said, what am I to you? Just a nobody. A cripple with nothing to his name. But, thanks to you, I am at least no longer naive and gullible. Throw some money and some kindness to a homeless kid and he'll give you anything you want and still thank you afterward. These are the words of a great person which have taught me a lot. Thus, I would simply like you to tell me what it is that you want from me. And needless to say, I don't want any help from you. You see, I may have nothing materialistic to my name, minister, but I have something else I value more. My principles. I am very happy as I am, and I would sooner die than accept help from a person as great as you. So I say from the bottom of my heart, that leaving me alone would be the greatest help you can provide me. That will be all. Forever grateful to you, Axel. Bellatrix was broken after reading the letter. Turns out, they were right in only providing him help from the shadows. After reading this, Bellatrix had simply decided not to bother Axel anymore. Or rather, she couldn't. She was too ashamed to even face him. And too scared to receive any more hatred from him. I want to kill myself, that's what she had said to Andromeda. It had taken a lot of persuasion to stop her from doing that. Andromeda was just glad she was there when Bella had received the letter. Needless to say, Bella hasn't come today, and instead sent her to see Axel. She'll just have to do by watching Andromeda's memories of today in the highest quality pensive. So, Andromeda had decided to take it upon herself to see that boy. She had asked Rose to bring him, and Rose had reassured her that he'll be there. She was still unsure about what exactly she was going to do, and frankly, she was also probably too scared to do anything. But she at least had to see him. Because her fears had come true, and it was worse than she had expected. Axel Hunt hadn't forgotten, and he hadn't forgiven. Not one bit. Oh. There she is! Exclaimed Sirius, bringing her out of her thoughts as he began rushing in one direction. Big sis! Exclaimed Jamie, the miniature version of the man, as he too rushed out. Andromeda followed their line of sight to Rose and her friends coming over. Sirius! Jamie! Rose quickly ran up to the two and hugged them. Andromeda smiled when she saw Rose. The girl seemed to have grown up a lot in the past 3 months. She was a bit taller, and the baby fat on her face had gone, maybe due to the Quidditch, making her look more beautiful rather than cute. Marlene and Andromeda also hugged her. Rose, where is Axel? Asked Andromeda as she hugged her. Rose's smiling face became annoyed. Why do you want to see him? Well, he's right there, she said, pointing towards Daphne as she became busy chatting up with Sirius and Jamie. Where? Muttered Andromeda as she looked in the pointed direction. She could only see Daphne. But then, she saw Daphne tapping someone beside her as she pointed out somewhere while saying something. And with a start, Andromeda realized that it was Axel. Sweet Merlin! What's wrong with her? He had been standing right there and she didn't even see him. Andromeda was quite surprised when she saw him. It was definitely him, she could tell, but he had changed a lot. The originally short and skinny boy was nowhere to be seen. He had grown a lot taller than he originally was. Almost too much for just 3 months. His emaciated frame had turned into a fit one, almost too fit for just 3 months. His face was much brighter now and his skin much healthier, as opposed to his originally pale and sickly look. And that wasn't the only thing that had changed. His aura seemed to have changed. Just standing there relaxedly, he somehow seemed to give her a similar feeling as those of the Special Forces hit wizards. But it must be her imagination. Now that she was finally seeing him, Andromeda just stood there frozen, unable to move. She was too apprehensive to approach. After 3 months at Hogwarts, he almost seemed okay. He was just standing there, with his hands in his pockets, exchanging words with Daphne and even having a hint of a somewhat amused smile at the corner of his mouth. Although he still had that somewhat annoyed expression on his face, but no one could tell that this boy had been tortured and had to kill a man just 3 months ago. This made her even more hesitant to approach him and remind him of the past. She saw as the rest of Rose's and friends went to their own families and Axel and Daphne went to their own seats. He had totally ignored her presence, and yet, she could only keep observing his every action. As soon as he had sat down, she saw him taking out his wand and smile while looking at it. A genuine smile. Something she hadn't seen him doing at all. What a pity, she thought as she saw his trembling hand and recalled his condition. With nerve damage like that, even doing the smallest bit of magic would make a grown man cry, and the magic would be incredibly weak. She saw him take out a handkerchief and wave his wand over it. And to her surprise, the handkerchief started to change. Transfiguration. At that level. How is this possible? He shouldn't be able to do this. He was practicing magic. Andromeda almost rushed over and stopped him. Because, doing magic in his condition was nothing but torture. Andy. Hey Andy. Just at this moment, she felt Sirius tugging at her, making her snap out of her shock. Yeah. What is it? She asked, trying not to show her emotions. Sirius pointed in the direction of the entrance. Look who's here, he said with a disgusted expression. Andromeda followed his direction, only to have a frown on her face as soon as she saw the person. It was a beautiful woman with blonde hair and features similar to Andromeda and Bellatrix. Sissy, whispered Andromeda. Traitor, uttered Sirius. The joyful atmosphere they'd going around them vanished as they saw her. Narcissa Malfoy Black was the black history of Black family. It would ruin both Andromeda's and Bellatrix's mood whenever Narcissa is mentioned. Not because of the things she did, but because she was the one who did those things. Her change had disappointed the sisters a lot. Mother, upon seeing Narcissa, a boy came forward in a hurry. He tried to hug her, but Narcissa stopped in his tracks. Draco, said looking down on him, I've heard of your deeds in these past months. Draco looked puzzled. I'm sorry, Mother. I wouldn't do those things now, he said uncertainly. Slap, that is not the problem, boy. If you challenge someone to a duel, make sure you win next time. Don't embarrass me next time, she said strictly. That's what Andromeda was talking about. The Narcissa of the past would never do that. Their dear sister had changed. She'd become a bitch. As you can see, he hasn't forgiven nor forgotten. Title. Meeting with the Valentinos. Yep, why wouldn't they come to see their daughter? Especially after seeing that photo. Power stones. And keep coming back. The more the readers, the more the motivation. Read ahead on Patreon. It helps a ton. Patreon.com/snollygoster. Also, people have gone all put in suggesting the skills. He won't be getting all of them instantly, but I have selected a few. Chapter 32. Meeting the Valentinos. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sissy, whispered Andromeda. Traitor, uttered Sirius. The joyful atmosphere they'd going around them vanished as they saw her. Narcissa Malfoy Black was the black history of the Black family. It would ruin both Andromeda's and Bellatrix's moods whenever Narcissa is mentioned. Not because of the things she did, but because she was the one who did those things. Her change had disappointed the sisters a lot. Mother, upon seeing Narcissa, a boy came forward in a hurry. He tried to hug her, but Narcissa stopped in his tracks. Draco, said Narcissa while looking down on him, I've heard of your deeds in these past months. Draco looked puzzled. I'm sorry, Mother. I wouldn't do those things now, he said uncertainly. Slap, that is not the problem, boy. If you challenge someone to a duel, make sure that you win. Don't embarrass me next time, she said strictly. That's what Andromeda was talking about. The Narcissa of the past would never do that. Their dear sister had changed. She'd become a bitch. And for the life of them, they couldn't tell why. As Axel entered the VIP box, he surveyed the surroundings. There were professors, some students of Hogwarts with their parents, and of course, the Black family. But when he saw Andromeda, he had to use a clemency to keep calm. He just decided to ignore the presence of blacks. So, it's just us now since my family couldn't make it, muttered Daphne as she saw others meeting up with their family. What about you? She asked tentatively, though she already knew the answer since he didn't even know about the whole thing minutes ago. She just wanted to know more about his situation. No one's coming, he said evasively. Bloody hell, this place seems like a paradise, he said, changing the topic as he looked around. Daphne once again didn't push it, isn't it? There's popcorn, drinks, and even the best view. And you were telling me to go to the normal seats. That was the thing with Daphne. She wouldn't annoy him with details. Why? Because they weren't friends. So he didn't need to tell her. They went to their seats and Axel began practicing magic while chatting with Daphne. He still didn't want to waste his time. So, what the fuck is Quidditch? Asked Axel as he performed the spell for the umpteenth time. Daphne raised her eyebrows. You don't know anything about Quidditch. How? I just don't, he said exasperatedly. He had given up even trying to explain. Now he just lets people make up his story by themselves. Now, are you going to tell me or not? Daphne narrowed her eyes at him. So, you do have an interest, huh? Axel rolled his eyes. I do not. Never did. But don't know if I ever will, he replied. The thing is, he never had time for these things. He always had better things to do. But now that he's stuck here for the time being, he might as well know what the fuck is going on. Daphne shrugged. Well, I don't particularly like the thing either, but I do know a little bit since I do not live in a cave. So, there are 7 players in each. She began to explain everything in detail. Game lasts for 90 minutes and the team that scores higher wins. Any questions? Axel nodded slowly. Yeah, so these seekers, you said they get 50 points every time they catch the snitch in the 90 minutes. While scoring with a quaffle only gets you 10. Why is that? Because apparently, the snitch is very small and fast. So, it's very difficult to spot, let alone catch. But, if you think it's unfair, then you've got another thing coming. Because just until a few years ago, catching the snitch would have ended the match and given the Seekers team a massive 150 points, really. Axel snorted. If the Seekers decide the match, then why are other players even playing? That sounds bullshit. Daphne nodded avidly. It is, isn't it? It's like the game was made by a Seeker or someone who wants Seeker to be the main character. I like it much better now. Axel fixed her with a scrutinizing gaze. So, you have an interest, don't you? Daphne paused. I don't. Absolutely not. Axel tilted his head. Okay, if you say so. He offered, not knowing why she'd insist on it. Anyways, can't believe it used to be an international sport even before the rules were changed. Daphne nodded, once again failing to hide her enthusiasm. Yeah, it used to be an international sport, but not that popular. But after these changes were proposed by the new chairman of IQA, the popularity of the sport exploded even more. Now Quidditch has become full of opportunities. Axel didn't understand properly. What does that mean? It means that, if you're a good player, you can get a Quidditch scholarship. And look at those guys, she said, pointing towards a few men and women in suits but wearing scarves of different colors around their necks. They're selectors. If you're a good player, those guys will recruit you to their team and you can make crazy money and get famous if you play well. Isn't that exciting? She enthused. Axel looked down at his trembling hands. Yeah, very exciting, he muttered in sarcasm. It was so exciting that his hands couldn't stop trembling due to the excitement. At this moment, they saw Rose jump off from the balcony as she mounted her broomstick and flew down to the Gryffindor locker room. Axel and Daphne looked at each other. Gryffindor, they muttered. The time for the start of the match was near and Axel was beginning to think that maybe sitting here wasn't as bad as it seemed. But, excuse me, this is an announcement. The first-year student Axel Hunt is required in the VVIP box. Thank you. The hell is going on? Muttered Axel. Daphne looked at him. Well, you tell me, she muttered as eyes began gathering on him. Damn it, he thought as he realized that he can't even use his skills now with so many people watching. I think you should go, said Daphne. Axel thought about it. Since the other party can make the announcement to the whole stadium and stay in the VVIP room, it's quite obvious that they'll find him anyway even if he doesn't go. And right now he has the advantage, everyone is his alibi in case something happens. Hey, I need you to do this, he said as he gave Daphne a few instructions before he went off. Better get this over with now, he thought with a sigh. Today was the first Quidditch match, along with the visitation day. Today, outsiders get to come to Hogwarts and families have a chance to reunite. So of course, the Valentino family was also coming. I still think you guys shouldn't have come. You guys are busy and I think I handle myself here, said Martina in exasperation. Come on, Tina. You know I can't live long without my martini. I had to come, said Alessandro Valentino, the godfather of the Italian magical mafia. He was a middle-aged man with a handsome face with purple hair, blue eyes, and a scar on his forehead. Usually, he'd intimidate the hell out of anyone, but right now, he was just a doting father. Martina shrugged, no, I didn't mean it like that. But someone should have stayed behind, right? To look after the whole business. Usually, Martina's mother would stay back while her dad and brother would visit. Martina's mother, Francesca, sighed, well, I had to come this time, dear. Your dad and brother are going to need some babysitting this time, to make sure that they don't go overboard, she said exasperatedly. Francesca was a beautiful woman with auburn hair, violet eyes, and calm and collected temperament. She has always tried to be strict with Martina. Martina frowned, not go overboard. Mom, what exactly are they up to? She asked apprehensively. Martina's brother, Enzo, raised his hands, oh, dear sister. Why are you looking at us like that? We just need to run some tests, okay? We need to see for ourselves, he said mischievously. Enzo had his mother's auburn hair and his dad's blue eyes. His ears and eyebrow had piercings. He was handsome, but in a crooked sort of way. He was currently 20, much older than his dear little sister who was only 14. The apprehensiveness increased when she saw that look on his face. It meant trouble. Enzo, Dad, can you at least tell me first? A miracle happened. Alessandro actually denied his daughter's request. I'm sorry, Tina. Some things just need to be done. It can't be helped, he said as he checked his Magi. Mirror. Oh, it's already done, he muttered as he stood up, and Enzo stood up along with him. Good thing we blocked outside sound for now. You ready, Enzo? Enzo nodded as he took out his wand and knife. Oh, I am. But I'm not for the beatings we'll receive from our little powerhouse later, damn right, son. But we do what we gotta do, right? We've to make sure he's not a pussy who's only after the benefits. Knock knock. At this moment, the door was knocked and both the father and son fixed their sight on the door. I'll get it, Dad. We need to use a fiend fire to burn a tiny candle, do we? He said as he went to get the door. He readied his wand and knife and opened the door with the start. You piece of, he began as his wand began to conjure binding ropes, but, shing swipe thump, the sound of knife slashing was heard and in the instant, they all saw Enzo on his knees, with a knife on his jugular and a wand pointed at them, held by trembling hands. Blazing amber eyes peered cautiously from behind Enzo's head, showing irritation due to the sudden attack. The professors, the headmaster, and the media know I'm here. So I thought you'd be wise enough not to harm me. But if you insist, I'm taking down this guy with me, along with as many of you as I can, he said calmly. Talking to those behind me as well. Just try, he uttered, making the guards behind him also stop dead in their tracks. Axel. Martina was too surprised to react, but then her eyes glowed in fury as she understood what her dear father and brother had been up to. Put your wands down. All of you. She said, turning to the guards and her father. Everyone dropped their wands except Axel. For a second, silence ensued. But then, someone snorted. And then, ha 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 ha. Enzo began laughing like he'd seen the most amusing situation in the world. Alessandro also joined him in the laughter. Damn son, you got your ass kicked real bad. Martina and Francesca looked at the two like they were a lost cause. Axel glared at Martina. Be calm, you said your family won't cause trouble, he asked irately. Martina tried to approach him. Axel, trust me, I didn't know they were going to do any of this, she said as she glared at her family. An absurd laugh escaped his mouth. Could have fooled me. What am I supposed to do now? He had a knife to the throat of the son of the Godfather. The situation seemed quite volatile since even a small movement can end up hurting Enzo. At this moment, Francesca, who had been here to babysit, spoke up calmly. My daughter is telling the truth, Mr. Hunt. These two idiots tend to go a bit overboard when it comes to Martina, she said as she brought out a pensive and showed him what happened a moment before his arrival. It was a test, boy. We wanted to see if you're worthy of associating with my daughter, said Alessandro excitedly after the memory played out. Yeah man, it was just a prank, said Enzo as he laughed, though you played the reverse card. Axel shook his head absurdly. He was finding the whole situation crazy. And why, pray tell, would you assume I would even want to associate with your daughter? This time, both Alessandro and Enzo had the expression that they found his words absurd. What are you talking about? How can someone not want to be close with Tina? Yeah, she is perfect. Who would not want her, agreed Enzo. Oh God. Just kill me. Martina groaned in mortification. They've gone and done it. How would she ever face Axel now? In response to the two, Axel shrugged, well, I don't. She is the one who's been bothering me. So just tell her to stop if you don't want her associating with me. Just don't bother me next time. With that, he was off. Everyone else stood there as they saw Axel disappear from their view. There was a silence and everyone was too stunned to speak. Well, he's a badass, declared Enzo, breaking the silence. And he has awesome scars, added Alessandro as he caressed the scar on his forehead. I see why you would like him, Martina, said Francesca as she sighed. Purple magic exploded out of Martina. I've told you that it's not like that, she yelled with a face that had gone beet red. Well, looks like he passed the test. Power stones. So, new Quidditch and a meeting with Martina's parents in this chapter. That has another surprise along with a meeting with Andromeda. If you want to read ahead and support me in writing this, join Patreon. Patreon.com/snollygoster. Chapter 33. Daphne's Problem. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Axel finally returned, the game was going full on and the noise was everywhere. So, what was it about? Asked Daphne, not looking away from the game. Axel scoffed, just a waste of time really, he said exasperatedly. But a smirk came to his face as he recalled the red face of the thoroughly embarrassed Martina. It was also worth it, Martina Valentino. To everyone else at Hogwarts, she was this genius beauty who was perfect in every aspect. She would always give out this elegant and unapproachable feeling, as if she was above everyone else without even trying. At least that's what everyone thinks and that's what she wants everyone to think. In fact, she even had him fooled. He was terrified of the girl who even the system wanted him to be careful of. That was until he easily tripped her and ran away. He thought it might be a fluke, but the next day, she couldn't even handle his memories and got scared. Though, it was still alright. Her image was still mighty in his impression. But, on Halloween, she ended up tripping due to a minor lubrication charm and falling in an embarrassing position with her underwear exposed to him. Then when the Dementors came, she screamed so loud that even he got scared due to her reaction. She was no help despite being perfectly capable of handling the Dementors. And today, it turned out that she was just a little girl who is doted on by her family. So, it was quite amusing to slowly unmask the girl whom everyone thought of as a high, mighty, and aloof existence. It was a waste of time, but also worth it. How's that possible? How is that possible? Asked Daphne, offering him popcorn. Go, Rose. She called as Rose passed by them. Axel shook his head. Never mind, what about the game? He asked as he too looked at the field. Daphne frowned in distaste. It's not looking good. The Slytherins are playing very Slytherin way, those bastards. She exclaimed, but then she realized something. No offense, Axel was also a Slytherin after all. Axel wanted to laugh, none taken. But what exactly is happening? Your friends were saying that Gryffindor has better players, he asked, recalling the conversation of Rose, Susan, and Neville from earlier. Daphne sighed. It's all because of that guy, she said, pointing at a Slytherin flying by the goal hoops. Axel narrowed his eyes. Alaric Malcolm, the head boy. What about him? He asked, though he already somewhat knew what this was about. That guy has trained the team to play very Slytherin. All the strategies are borderline dirty and he's leading them quite well too. He might not be as good a keeper as Woods, but he's a better strategist, she explained. Axel looked at the scoreboard to find Slytherin leading by 30 points. So, it looks like Gryffindor will lose, huh? Not yet, said Daphne while munching her popcorns. If Rose catches the snitch we can get the lead. Did she forget she's talking to a Slytherin? He wondered as he gave her a peculiar look. She noticed his glance and misunderstood. You want some? She asked, once again offering him popcorn. Axel looked at the popcorn dripping with butter and sighed. No thanks, he denied once again. He was now completely following the system's diet, not eating anything else. So, if the snitch can get the victory, then why isn't Rose going after it? He asked. Daphne laughed. If only it was that easy. The snitch is crazy difficult to find, she said with certainty. Axel knitted his eyebrows. It couldn't have been that difficult, could it? What does it look like? He asked. Wow, you haven't seen it. Small, golden ball with silver wings attached to it that flap like a dragonfly, she began describing. It's quite shiny and it would sometimes hover in the same place while other times, it would. Does it look like that? Near the hoops? Asked Axel, pointing at a golden ball with flapping wings, hovering near the goal hoops. Daphne was unimpressed. Yeah, not falling for that one. At least point somewhere nearer so that it would seem plausible, she said in a deadpan. The place where he pointed out was too far to spot a tiny ball hovering in the sky. I wasn't joking, but, never mind, Axel shrugged. He couldn't bring himself to give a damn. Daphne looked at him for a moment then sighed. All right, I'll bite, she muttered before she put the omni-oculars to her eyes. That's the snitch. I see it. That's the snitch. And, oh no, it moved away. She quickly turned to him in astonishment. How'd you find it? Scratch that, how did you even see it from such a distance? Axel smirked. Because it was golden and shiny, he answered. It was one of the reasons. He was a goddamn thief, of course, his eyes would catch sight of gold like a hawk sighting its prey. After years of experience, his brain was programmed to naturally spot gold first. And the other reason was, arcane eyes. Progress 10%, an arcane thief's eyes need to be special. To search treasure, to detect traps, to see through the enchantments, to see in the dark, and so on, eyes are as important a tool for a thief as any and more, yep, a new skill. In the beginning, he had attributed it to be just another common skill, but it was not. That's why it took so long to unlock. Axel was looking forward to abusing this skill after his proficiency increases. Daphne gave him a deep look. You would have made a fantastic seeker if you were more dexterous, she muttered before she checked her magi. Mirror yet again. She'd been doing this since the morning. Dexterous. Axel shook his head ruefully at the irony. He probably used to be the most dexterous person you can find in the whole of Britain. And here she is, talking about dexterity. Oh. Looks like the Gryffindor seeker, Rose Potter, has found the snitch. She's flying full throttle. Is this a feint? Or is she really onto something? And the Slytherin seeker Terence is on the chase. Rose makes a dive, and she's got it. I can't believe it. 30 minutes into the match, and she's captured the snitch. The GRY. The commentator and the crowd were going mad, and even Axel nodded in acknowledgement at the nice catch. But, with the absence of the expected cheering from beside him, he turned his head to look at Daphne. "What's up?" he asked in confusion. Daphne was looking at her magi-mirror, and a curtain of her blonde hair was obscuring her face. But he could see that her hands were gripping the magi-mirror very tightly, with her fingers digging into it. Sniff, nothing. Daphne shook her head as she wiped her eyes. Her face was pale and she did not seem happy at all. "Hey, you can enjoy the match. I remembered I had something urgent to do," she said as she stood up and started to leave. "What the heck?" murmured Axel. "Is she seriously going to ditch him like this after dragging him into this place?" Axel also stood up. The deal was to accompany her for the day. What the hell is he going to do wasting time here? And, was she actually crying? That seemed quite impossible. She's the type to make others cry. Thus he decided to follow her. But before he could leave, he found someone standing in his way, blocking his path. Axel. Axel clenched his weak hands into fists. "Mrs. Tonks, excuse me," he said as he began to walk by her. "No, please wait. I need to talk to you," she said with a bit of desperation in her voice, putting up her hands in front of her in a stopping gesture. She had only been able to gather her courage to approach him now. And she didn't want him to brush her off without even hearing her out. Axel looked past her to see Daphne disappearing from his view. "Look, I really don't have the time right now. And I don't think I can do anything else for you. You've already taken the memories and my body reports. Just give up or find someone else to experiment on, please." Saying so, he quickly went past her, leaving Andromeda too stunned to do anything. He found Daphne sitting under a huge tree just a little bit into the forbidden forest. It wasn't far from the stadium. As he had expected, something was indeed wrong since she was actually crying. Daphne wasn't really the type of girl who'd cry. Sitting under the tree, with her knees tucked to her chest, she cried silently with streams of tears falling down her cheeks. Her nose was red and the soft sound of sobs would faintly echo in the clearing as she cried freely. Axel didn't know what to do. He couldn't even remember the last time he had cried like that. Probably never. Because he never actually cared so much about anything that he'd cry over it so badly. He always thought of how to make things better instead of hopelessly crying like this. He couldn't help but wonder if he was wrong to come here and witness her in such a private moment. But then he thought, fuck it, she shouldn't be crying so pathetically no matter what the case. Whatever her problem is, she should either be able to do something about it, or she can't do anything about it. Either way, crying seems quite meaningless, right? At least that's what he thought. Thus, no longer hiding his presence, he freely walked into the clearing. "So, this is the important thing you forgot to do, huh?" Daphne seemed to almost jump out of her skin when she saw him. "What the fuck, Axel? What are you doing here?" she asked, quickly wiping her tears. Axel stood there with his hands in his pockets. "Well, I wasn't going to just stay in there with the rich assholes. The deal was to accompany you, so here I am," he said with a shrug. "Now, are you going to tell me why you are crying?" he asked. Daphne quickly dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief. "Who said I was crying? It's just that, something got in my eyes," she said very truthfully. Axel nodded in understanding. You do realize that you're not fooling anyone, right? But I'll buy it if you insist. Anyways, if you want to talk about it, I still have to accompany you for about 1.5 hours for the favor. And if you don't, I'm walking away, he said as he started to leave. Daphne looked lost for a moment. But then, she sat back down under the tree. It's about Astoria, she said quietly. Axel turned around and came to sit beside her. What about her? I thought she and your mother were out of country today. Daphne nodded. It's for Astoria. She. Daphne choked a sob. She isn't expected to live a long life. She has a blood malediction, she said as tears once again began to pool in her eyes. Axel nodded in understanding. So, I take it your mother took her out for treatment. Daphne nodded. The asshole didn't want to spend money on her. Now that he's dead, my mother has been taking my sister to other magically advanced civilizations. Today, she went to Atlantis, the most developed magical civilization. Axel recalled what Professor Gorsky had said about Atlantis. The civilization had reached its peak between 1,000,000 and 900,000 years ago, but most of it was destroyed due to internal warfare. It decided to relocate underwater around 9,000 years ago. So, it's still much older than Britain's magical civilization, which only started with Merlin. But, isn't it closed to the outside world? Daphne nodded. Yes, that's the problem. All the other communities either rejected or couldn't cure her. And Atlantis, the last hope, didn't work out as well. Now my sister can't be saved, she said hopelessly. Axel listened attentively to her problem. Then, ha 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 ha, he began to chuckle lightly in response. He couldn't help it since it was funny. Daphne looked at him, completely discombobulated. Sorry, sorry, I couldn't help it. Hey wait, before he could even finish speaking, Daphne had gotten up, about to leave. So he grabbed her hand to stop her. But Daphne wasn't listening. She was feeling very furious, betrayed, and dumb right now, due to his reaction. She shook his weak crippled hand off with ease, but his other hand took its place in stopping her. Wait. No. You won't be able to do magic. He yelled. That stopped her. What? She asked in confusion. Axel let go of her hand. You won't be able to do magic, That's what they said to me 3 months ago when I woke up in St. Mungo's, he said, looking up at her. Daphne once again sat down beside him. Axel had always avoided this topic and was only bringing it up today. So, she wasn't going to miss it now. What happened? Axel shook his head. Can't tell you exactly how it happened, but most of the nerves in my body were fried off. And the master healer said I won't be able to do magic normally again and my hands and body might not ever heal, he said, looking at his trembling hands. Daphne didn't interrupt him as she listened with more attention than she ever paid to anything else. I was unconscious the first 2 or 3 days as they healed whatever they could. On the 3rd day, I woke up to find that I had lost most of the control over my hands and every movement of my body was painful. Daphne looked at him differently. Axel had told everyone with certainty that his injuries were minor and temporary and it'll heal. She never expected that they were permanent. I only moved using the pain-relieving potion for the first 2 days. And I ran out of it on the 4th day. When I first tried magic, even the Lumos charm didn't work for hours. But I refused to accept any of the words the healer said. And when it finally worked, it was so weak that you'd hardly see even in the dark. And it was so painful that I passed out, he said, smiling at the recollection. Turning to face her, he said, so, take it from someone who's already defied what others say, and don't lose hope. It's your sister's life, not theirs. They won't try their absolute best no matter what you offer them. So, don't give up until you've tried everything. It's not over until it's over. Daphne's eyes slowly widened as she heard his words. They hit her like a bludgeon to the stomach and made her wake up to reality. That's right. Why did she lose hope just because the others said so? She still hasn't done anything yet. The future had infinite possibilities and she can't lose hope just because someone else said it. Now that she thought back to it, her worries did indeed seem laughable when compared to what Axel has gone through. And he never gave up. She couldn't even imagine him sitting under a tree and crying helplessly. He'd rather do something about it instead. She turned to look at him deeply. You're right. I'm so sorry for displaying such a pathetic side, she said in mortification. But why did you help me? She asked suddenly, realizing that there could only be one answer, right? Because they were friends. Axel nodded his head. Well, I need to submit 2 homeworks tomorrow which you still haven't done, and I didn't want tears on my notebook. So, hey. Why are you attacking me? They began messing around as Daphne tried to assault him while he defended and laughed. But, all of a sudden, his eyes widened and he made both of them roll over. Not even a second later, a spell hit right where he was present a moment ago. AN title. Danger and new feature unlocked. It was a very satisfying chapter. Before the end. Look forward to what happens next. Power Stones. Read ahead and support me on Patreon. Patreon.com/snollygoster. Chapter 34. The Danger and the New Feature. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 34. Boom. Axel and Daphne rolled over as a spell hit right where he was present just moments ago. The impact was so huge that they got thrown off a bit just by the shockwave. Dark magic detected. And that was the cherry on top. More spells came at them and Axel took Daphne to hide behind a tree. You bastards, you want to fight? You fucking got it, muttered Axel furiously as he took out both of his wands, one of which was wrapped in leather. But Daphne, on the other hand, took out her magi.mirror and tapped it a few times, and pointed it out where the attacks came from. I'm broadcasting this live on my channel and Axel is calling Martina. And a professor. Come at us. Axel stood there dumbly with one of the wands flashing blue and while the other hummed in his hand in demand for some action as he comprehended what Daphne had just done. He didn't know whether to praise her quick thinking or smack her head. On one hand, she had made a brilliant move as displaying this live would get the attackers in a whole lot of trouble. Especially if they actually fired spells now. Plus, him calling Martina would sound quite legit and threatening as she had personally warned everyone to lay off him. But on the other hand, this is giving the chance for the attackers to escape and he doesn't even know who they are. And also, he doesn't even have Martina's contact, but, hello, Martina. I'm being attacked. Fly to the Forbidden Forest. I'll send out a red spark to show our position. But, in the end, he still decided to go with Daphne's approach. Because right now, he was at a complete disadvantage. There were more than one opponent and one of them knew fucking silent casting. Meaning very skilled, they could use dark motherfucking magic. Very dangerous. He didn't even know their numbers, their level of skill, how powerful the dark magic was and how it worked, their identity, etc. Plus, he also had Daphne as a baggage if it came down to a fight. He can't fight in his style since these guys would simply target her as soon as he disappears or evades too much. With such massive odds stacked up against him, he decided to go with Daphne's approach and fired red sparks into the sky. He also fired a sticking charm at Daphne's hand, sticking her magi.mirror to her hand, in case the attackers summoned the magi.mirror out of her hands. He wasn't sure if it was enchanted with an anti-summoning or not. With everything done, he waited as he heard hushed voices arguing before they began to fade away. Daphne giggled quietly. They ran away, she whispered, feeling accomplished. A vein popped on Axel's forehead. Not until I know who they are, he muttered before he started to fade from view as he activated his skills. It's their wishful thinking if they thought they could attack him with no consequences. Stay here. I'll be back. Keep recording on in case they're idiotic enough to still come, he ordered Daphne before leaving. Wait, but before she could stop him, he was already off. Axel quickly caught up to his supposed attackers. We could have still attacked, you know, said a boy to his accomplices as he took off his mask. He looked at least above the 5th year. Idiot, they've already called for help and sent out red sparks. Students are wandering around here with their families. People are bound to come and investigate. If we're caught, there'll be hell to pay, said another guy with blonde hair. He was younger than the other two, but he seemed the leader here. Axel knew this guy. He had seen him at the Slytherin table. But Damien, why are you even trying to attack him after Valentino's warning? Don't tell it's that stupid jealousy, asked the third guy who was walking with them. Damien pointed his finger at him. It's none of your business, foe. I gave you one task. Hit silently and run. And you managed to fail spectacularly at it. Don't expect any payment now, foe looked outraged. It wasn't my fault. I tell you mate, that kid is abnormal, he is. I even used the power of the circle. Damien shook his head, don't make, but he paused since the sound of approaching footsteps alerted them. SH, someone is coming. Turn around and start walking the way we came. He ordered in a whisper as they began retracing their steps. Axel, who was standing on a tree branch, observed everything. People were coming. That's the reason why these guys didn't continue their attack on Axel. Though ironically, this was also why Axel didn't attack them just now. Besides, even if he did ambush them and win right now, then what? He can't kill them at the moment since he'll get caught, and letting him leave after beating them would reveal his cards to them. They'd know that. 1. He knows it was them who attacked. 2. They'll know that he was actually skilled enough to beat all three of them together. 3. He isn't going to take Martina's help. So the biggest deterrent preventing them from attacking him won't exist. Thus, attacking them right now is just making things more difficult for himself. Soon, 2 wizards in aura robes came into view and they easily spotted Damien and company who were walking ahead. Hey, you 3. We saw red sparks in the sky. Do you guys know anything about it? The 3 shook their heads, and Malcolm stepped forward. No, we were also going to investigate just that, actually, said Damien smoothly, indicating the way they were going. What a Slytherin move, he muttered as he witnessed the Aurors ordering Malcolm and his goons to go out of the forest, which was exactly what they wanted. This guy wasn't dumb. He waited for the perfect opportunity to ambush him and has the ability to think on his feet and improvise. Earlier, he made the decision to retreat quickly instead of continuing to attack, avoiding the chance of Martina ever discovering who the attacker was. Though, leaving was also his biggest mistake. Because now, Axel is the hunter. And they will be his prey. You picked a fight with the wrong person, rich guy, he muttered as he once again faded from view. As the most vindictive person here, he wasn't going to let this go unpunished. Just like them, he can also bide his time and strike at the perfect opportunities. And just like them, he wouldn't let them know who attacked them. But unlike them, he won't fail miserably at both tasks like they did. While making way back to Daphne, Axel checked the system notifications. You managed to handle the unexpected situation. Plus 2% approval. Method to remove the trace from your wand. Axel returned to Daphne, making her way in his direction, still recording and looking scared. Why the hell did you not stay there? He asked her irately as he emerged from behind a tree. Ah! Daphne jumped and he quickly had to put a hand over her mouth to stop her from screaming. But then he got a punch to his stomach. Why the hell did you go after them? They are so dangerous. Axel glared at her, because, I am more dangerous. Now shut up and follow me. We have to leave. Daphne found herself obediently shutting up and following him. When he claimed to be more dangerous with those amber eyes deadly serious, she somehow believed him. Was the recording really live? He asked, wondering if it would be troublesome. Daphne shook her head. No, it was just being sent to my mother. I couldn't do more due to panic and urgency, she said sheepishly. That's good, Axel sighed in relief. You handled the situation quite well, he said after a pause. It was a genuine praise. She might not be too strong magically, but she was able to use her brain and come up with a way out when the odds seemed to be stacked against them. Daphne stopped walking as her eyes widened. He actually praised me. An indescribable feeling filled up her chest as she realized what had happened. After 3 months of knowing each other, this was the first time he had actually praised her. That's exactly what made it so much more rewarding now. Axel turned around to glare at her. Why did you stop? We have to leave quickly, he said in annoyance. Yes. A dazzling smile of pure joy came to her face, which had been crying bitterly just a while earlier, as she followed him once again with a spring in her steps and lots of motivation for the future. Mom. Don't be sad. Please be happy, said a small cute girl with brown hair and big and adorable gray eyes. The woman who was her mother wiped the stray tear that had escaped her eyes as she smiled. I'm not sad, Tori. It's going to be okay. I'll find another way, she said reassuringly. Astoria Greengrass shook her little head. I don't mind. I just want to see sister. Can you call her? She asked with a pout. The woman, Evelyn Greengrass, nodded and was about to call her eldest daughter, but her mirror rang at this moment, indicating a call from Daphne. Oh, look, she called us herself, she said as she accepted the call. But instead of seeing her daughter's face, she saw a shaky view of a forest with spells being fired towards them. Give me a minute, Tori. Evelyn quickly stood up and walked away from Astoria. Daphne. What's happening? She asked urgently, but got no response. You bastards, you want a fight? You fucking got it, came the voice of a boy from the device. I'm broadcasting this live on my channel and Axel is calling Martina. And a professor. Come at us. Said Daphne. Evelyn quickly understood the situation and could do nothing but watch the scenes unfold. Fortunately, after some time, it looked like the attackers had gone away. And then, a handsome boy's visage came into her view, holding a wand in each hand. They ran away. Came Daphne's triumphant voice. No. Not until I know who they are, said the boy before he started to fade from view. Wait. Called out Daphne as she swore under her breath. But then she seemed to recall something and quickly turned the mirror in her direction. Hi Mum, as you can see, I'm a bit busy, so I've disabled the incoming sound. I can't hear whatever you're saying. I'll talk to you later, okay? She said as she quickly began to chase. Fortunately, both of them were safe in the end and the call got cancelled. But Evelyn just stood there with her heart pounding very hard. It wasn't because of her daughter being in danger, since she already knew Daphne would be able to handle it. It was because of something else. Just now in the call, she had noticed something quite shocking. It can't be right, she wondered as she replayed the video. And her suspicions were correct. It was indeed the very same. How did he get it? She needed answers. She needed to know everything. Time passed, and soon, Christmas was coming. One morning, Hogwarts woke up to find itself buried in several feet of snow. And on such a snowy day, a boy could be seen running laps around the frozen lake. This boy was obviously Axel Hunt. His body was now functioning enough that he could actually run. Though making explosive movements would still send jolts of pain throughout his body. During this time, his main focus had been occlumency, but he already knew that only focusing on occlumency with his shitty lucky was pure idiocy and impatient behavior. In his short time here, he had been challenged to a duel, attacked by a troll, followed by dementors, followed by some idiots and almost by a dangerous mafia family. He had to be prepared. Thus, there was one secret weapon he had developed during this time. It was his trump card. Something that uses all of his skills and talents. Aside from that, there were also some other major changes during this time. After arriving at a secluded spot, he took out a dagger and began practicing his knife. Wielding skill. Asfxasis art.rtzkh.f. He muttered in between his strikes. Most of times, nothing would happen. But if you looked carefully, some of the knife strikes would leave behind thin trails of glowing blue light. Frankly, he didn't know what the fuck he was saying. The words he was chanting was a new feature. Approval rate. 20%, new feature unlocked, Arcane Scribe. You are now able to access the arcane language. Progress. 1.2%, when the feature had unlocked a few days ago, the pain he had felt in his head was nothing to scoff at. It was as if head was being split open. After reaching a threshold, many of his skills had stopped progressing. But after this upgrade, his skills started to show incantations and the progress percentage started to increase once again. It means that he would have never mastered those skills without increasing his approval rate and unlocking this feature. He imitated the swiping, slashing, and stabbing motions of the dagger as the images in his head played. But, he couldn't do one important thing. Switching the blade between his hands. He wasn't actually gripping the dagger since he couldn't do that properly in the first place. It was just stuck to his palm with a sticking charm. So he wasn't able to change hands to increase the variations of attacks. After he was done, he lay down on the frozen ground in exhaustion. The Christmas holidays are starting today. And he has decided to spend them outside Hogwarts. He had unlocked some potion recipes which are going to help him train, but he couldn't make the potions himself due to obvious reasons and the ingredients aren't cheap. So he's going to go out and figure something out. Aside from this, he had 3 letters, inviting him for Christmas. One from the Black family, one from the Greengrass family, and unbelievably, one from Valentino family. The latter letter came as a surprise to him, to say the least. After he had threatened them with a knife to their successor's throat, an invitation for Christmas was the last thing he was expecting in that letter. Of course, he politely declined the invitations of Blacks and Valentinos saying that he had prior arrangements. But for Greengrass, it was troublesome. Daphne had once again cashed in her homework favor. That is why, he had agreed to have the Christmas dinner with the Greengrass family. But that's just one day. He had other unfinished business to attend to in London. Something he thought he'd need a long time to accomplish but was possible after the crazy changes he had gone through this year. Unfinished business indeed, he thought as he traced the scars on his face. He's no longer as weak as he used to be. Worthless street rat, huh? Let's see who's the rat now, he muttered as his eyes began to glow. He had waited enough. It's time for some retribution. A new feature. Plus, Evelyn now knows. Maybe. Gangsta's entry OP action coming soon. Especially his trump card. Power Stones. Vote for me. Read ahead and support me on Patreon. Patreon.com/snollygoster. Chapter 35. Gangsta's entry. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Worthless street rat, huh? He muttered as his eyes began to glow. He had waited enough. Lying in the snow, Axel recalled what happened in the past. Get out of here, squirt. How'd you even get in, said a burly guard as he threw an 8-year-old Axel out of a bar. Laying down on the ground, little Axel sighed. It had been a few days since he had to leave the orphanage and he had been wandering to all kinds of places in order to get some kind of employment to get money. He had gotten so desperate that he even tried entering this high-class bar. On his way back, the burly guard bumped into a man as he passed by. Pardon, said the man, tipping his hat to the guard as he came to stand in front of Axel. Kid, how'd you get in? Asked the man, looking down at Axel. Who are you? What you want? Still lying on the ground, Axel turned his head to look up at the man. The man was wearing a pin-stripped suit, a hat on his bald head, and had a cigar in his mouth. Also, his face was full of scars. "I'm Scars. Johnny Scars." I asked, "How did you get into the bar?" "The security of this bar is quite strict," he muttered, looking at Axel with interest. "Sneaked past the guards," Axel muttered with a sigh. He had to wait for a long time to pull it off. But it turned out to be a useless endeavor. The man raised an eyebrow. "You snuck past them. How?" Axel's stomach rumbled. "By minding my own business," he said as he got up to leave. The man smiled as he took out a 20-pound note from his wallet. "As a matter of fact, I am." "Tell me how you entered," he stated, waving the note. Axel shrugged. "Wasn't that difficult. I just had to wait." The black security guard had gone to the toilet. The blonde one was looking at the woman on the counter and the burly one was busy with another person, he explained. The man slowly smiled. "Knew it wasn't a fluke. You have talent, kid. Why don't you work for me?" Axel shook his head. "I think I'll pass." The man tilted his head. "I don't understand. Why would a rat like yourself reject me?" Axel glared at the man for looking down on him. "Because, you're no good. I saw you taking the wallet of that burly guard just now. You also have a bulge in your suit that looks like a gun. So, I think I'll pass. I'm not that desperate yet." Saying so, Axel dusted off his clothes and walked away. Something about this man didn't seem right to him. Seeing Axel depart, a wicked grin came to the man's face, stretching the scars on his face. "Looks like I've found a new toy, huh?" Axel gave up finding employment and found himself going back to the orphanage instead. It's the only place he's known for his whole childhood. Axel didn't even know exactly why he was kicked out. He snuck in through the first-floor window that he knew will be open since they'd never think someone can climb that high. It was night, so all the kids had gone to bed, and Axel felt a sting when he saw that his bed was now occupied by someone else. Shaking his head, he went to the kitchen to find something to eat. But to his bad luck, the caretaker and the cook were sitting there, drinking alcohol. "Damn it," he muttered. "It looks like he'll have to wait for them to leave first." But these guys kept talking and talking. Axel was about to fall asleep when their conversation caught his ear. "So, you finally kicked that freak out, huh?" asked the cook. His words were a bit slurred and his face was flushed due to being drunk. The caretaker laughed. "Damn right I did. He beat up some rich guy's kid in the school and the rich guy asked for his expulsion. So they cancelled his scholarship." Axel's eyes widened after listening to their conversation. So, the reason he was kicked out was that rich bully. Axel hadn't done that much. He had only defended himself. The cook smiled. "That's good. Now the school won't question us when he's kicked out of here." "But, what if he goes to the authorities?" The caretaker laughed. "That doesn't matter. The kid's parents left him with no paperwork. Legally, he doesn't even exist. It'll be no trouble," he said, taking a swig from the bottle. The cook tilted his head. "Then, why'd you take him in the first place? It could have caused trouble." The caretaker scoffed. "They were offering good money and I thought they'll come back. So I didn't really mind. But who'd have thought they were making a fool out of me? They were just trying to get rid of him. The freak has demonic powers. Beats up other kids. I had to take one to the hospital last week. I tell ya, Jake, I've had enough of him. Good riddance." The caretaker's words were like a hammer to the brain. This man had taken care of him since his childhood. And now he's discovering that the man wanted to kick him out all this while. Unable to bear staying there any longer, Axel just ran away from the place. His parents had left him, and the caretaker, who used to be kind enough, had also gotten rid of him. Is he really so undesirable? He wiped his eyes. Well then, fuck it. If no one really cares about him, then why should he care about anyone else? He had been trying to make an honest living but now he really didn't want to. Axel. Oi. Are you dead? Axel snapped out of his past memory as he heard a voice disturbing his rest. That day was the beginning of everything. Things would have been very different if only he had found help or at least if someone had given him employment. But of course, he'd found 3 enemies instead. First was, of course, the caretaker. Axel had looted all the money from the caretaker's personal locker the very next day. Then there was the rich bully. He still had a score to settle with that family for getting him kicked out. The third was someone whom Axel had already forgotten by the next day. But the man hadn't forgotten Axel. Johnny Scars. He was a total nutjob and Axel should have known better than to talk to that guy instead of running away right then and there. Oi. I'm talking to you. Are you listening? Axel finally turned his eyes towards the annoying person who was disturbing him. It was Rose standing there with her broom in her hand. Can't you take the hint? I'm trying to ignore you, said Axel as he got up. It wasn't a surprise that she found him. This junkie can be seen flying around on her broom whenever she has free time. Rose stomped her foot, arg. Why the hell were you lying on the ground like that? I thought you were dead. Axel scoffed, no, you didn't. Tell me why you're here, he said as he began walking towards the castle. So frustrating. Aunt Andromeda wants to talk to you. She said with a huff, she's been asking about you the whole year and I'm tired of being the middleman. Just politely ask her to leave me alone, he rejected as he continued walking. Rose had had it now, what the hell is your problem? She took you shopping, bought you so many things, even invited you to dinner with us. How can you be so ungrateful? For a moment, Axel paused in his steps and Rose's knees lost strength as she fell down. Axel partially turned his head, showing one eye which seemed to contain blazing embers in it. Don't speak when you don't know anything, he said in a voice colder than the snow around them. And also, if you're feeling jealous and insecure about someone else getting more attention, don't try to take it out on me, he added. Her words had stung. So he must sting back. In the beginning, the two of them were just fine. But slowly, over the months, he had noticed how her hostility kept increasing slowly. That's why he said those words. And from the way her eyes widened, Axel could tell that he had hit a nerve. Inwardly nodding in at a job well done, he left Rose kneeling on the ground as he already began to forget the incident. Axel sat alone in an empty compartment as he sharpened his dagger and knives. He was preparing for war. On the seat in front of him, he had above 20 knives, some swords, and a few shields. The knives were kitchenware or stolen from those who kept them. Swords and shields were taken from armors. There's a reason why he didn't take revenge up to now. That guy isn't just a nobody. He's a dangerous gangster with a whole fucking gang. And Axel has beef with them all. Thus, he can't be lax with his preparation. As he was sharpening each and every piece of equipment, suddenly, the numerous locking spells he had placed on the door vanished and the door slid open. Stupid, Axel had his wand pointed at the door to stun whoever it was, but he paused mid-chant as he realized who it was. He knew better than to attack this person. A shield appeared around Martina even as Axel lowered his wand. And he keenly realized that her hands were wandless. Yep, he knew better than to attack her. After her family's ambush at the Quidditch match, she had come to apologize for their nuisance and over the past few months, they had become kinda acquainted. What's the matter? He asked, trying to play it casual. But of course, if you have a bunch of sharp weapons lying on your opposite seat, it's difficult to not look sus as fuck. Seeing her looking wide-eyed at him, Axel sighed, close the door, will you? I'll be suspended if anyone sees this, he said, indicating the mess. Martina came in and locked the door with a complex charm. What are you doing? She asked, looking at him weirdly. Well, first tell me why you're here, he demanded. Martina sat beside him since the other seat was completely full of weapons. Being from a mafia family, weapons were a norm to her. Thus, she adapted quickly. I came to give you this, she said, taking out a small box. Axel made no motion to accept it. What is it? It could be called a gift. My parents were going to give it to you personally. But since you aren't coming, they asked me to give it to you, she said as she opened the box and Axel's eyes widened. Damn, he muttered. It was a beautiful obsidian black dagger. From just one look, he could say it was enchanted. Or rather, he had been enchanted by it. A knife is a sign of friendship in a mafia family. You are now a friend of Valentino's, she said with a smile. Axel knew what it was supposed to mean. He just couldn't understand one thing. Why? He asked. How could him pulling out a knife on their son lead to this? Martina shook her head. You managed to somehow impress them. And. She paused. And. She looked away with a roll of her eyes, and they think they know me better than I do, she said exasperatedly. Axel didn't know what that was supposed to mean, but he did accept the knife. Rejecting it usually means enmity and he wants to avoid that. Thanks, he said truthfully as he examined the blade. Though he was hesitant to touch it. It's not cursed, said Martina in exasperation as she picked it up and held it out to him, handle first. Axel hesitantly reached out and took it. Wow. Was all he could say as he held it. It was well balanced and just fitted right into his hand. It's good, right? It has a lot of enchantments. It won't need maintenance, can conduct magic, and, it even can cut right through spells. That surprised him. He looked at the knife. Well, I'd have given an equally good knife in return, but as you can see, I don't have it, he said, gesturing at his collection. Martina looked at his collection and picked up a knife. It was the best one, but also the most used and battered one. Well, this one seems nice, Axel shrugged. It does the job, he muttered. Well, it has been used to stab through a man's testicles, eyes, heart, and lungs. A job well done, he thought inwardly. Martina finally decided to address the elephant in the room. So, she said, gesturing towards the weapons, I was wondering if you'll explain this now. Axel sighed. He knew it was coming. Well, I'm sharpening them all, he said evasively as he picked up his whetstone and once again got to work. He couldn't just say he was preparing for a gang war, could he? With a whetstone. Why aren't you using magic? He didn't know you could do that. The train arrived at the station and everyone met with their families. Walking through them, Axel couldn't help but look at the happy expressions of the people. He neither felt envious nor sad to see them. Feeling sad or envious would mean that he's dissatisfied with his current life. But he's not. He's well on his way to becoming the strongest in the world. And that's all he wants for now. Though he did feel envious about how most of their bodies are completely fine while he has been having it tough. But oh well, his acclimacy is proceeding steadily since that's the thing he focuses the most on. He'll get the cure soon enough. Getting out of the station, he hired a cab and got in. Where to, Sonny? Asked the driver cheerfully as the radio played an old song. Peckham, answered Axel. The radio got turned off along with the driver's cheerful mood. Not going, get out. Peckham is a district of southeast London. It had a population of over 300,000. Drugs, knives, guns, and murders were probably just a few things that Peckham has to offer. Almost every part of it is full of thug dealers or new bloods that are soon to be killers. Axel sighed. Take me as close as you can, he muttered as he showed him the money. The closer the better. As he got out of the taxi, he activated his stealth and his clothes began changing. His outfit changed into a black hoodie, black jeans, and black boots. His face got covered with a black mask too. The two wands in his hands had leather wrapped around them so that no one recognizes them. System, has the trace been really removed from my wand? He asked to confirm that he had gotten that as a system reward when he'd been attacked in the woods. Affirmative. Well, good enough. It makes things much more convenient. He arrived in front of a large villa that had graffiti painted on most of its walls. A rat, huh, he muttered as his wand slowly rose up to point at the door. He had made his decision. This time, he's not going to enter as a rat, but as a fucking gangster. Bombarda, boom. Thus, with a wicked glint in his eyes, he blew up the gates of the villa. And that, kids, is the gangster's way. Title: The New Magic and Revenge POWSTONES. Read ahead and support this awesome piece of work on Patreon. Patreon.com/snollygoster. Chapter 36. Revenge and New Magic. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As he blew up the gates, all Axel could think was the memories he had been suppressing all this time. Hold him down for me, said a man with lots of scars on his face. What the fuck is wrong with you? Let me go, protested a 9-year-old Axel. But, instead of freedom, he got a punch to his face that broke his tooth from one of the men holding him down. Stop struggling, you little fucker. My balls are still aching from the kick you gave me earlier. You had it coming. What did I ever do to you? Replied Axel hotly. You've been stealing in our area without paying us protection money. Now take your punishment. Bullshit. Little Axel wanted to cry from the unfairness. This wasn't even their turf. They'd been following him for no reason and now they're here with this guy. The guy who was their leader was none other than Johnny Scars, the scary scarred guy who'd creeped him out. Scars chuckled as he casually squatted down as he looked at the struggling Axel. It is indeed bullshit, little rat. The real reason is that arrogance of yours that has made you reject coming under me multiple times, he said, taking out his knife. Axel looked at the knife in horror. This guy is a lunatic. That's exactly why he wasn't joining this guy. Like hell he'd work under anyone, let alone a lunatic like him. Why do you keep bothering me? There are so many willing people in the world. Johnny shook his head in disappointment. You don't get it, kid. You don't get it, he said, twirling the knife and pointing it at Axel. I saw potential in you, kid. No one else saw it, but I did. And I could have taken you to great heights if you had come under my wing. But now that you've rejected me, I have to show you exactly what you are without me, he said, bringing the knife closer to his face. No. At least give me a fair fight, you bastard. Axel's heart was racing and he was sweating profusely. Yep, this guy is a total lunatic. He struggled with all his might as he saw the knife slowly descend. And not for the first time, he realized how weak he was. And Johnny seemed to enjoy seeing him squirm as he slowly ran the flat of the blade along his cheek. Get this in your little head. The world is unfair, you cheeky fucker. You are nothing but a rat right now and I'm the hunter. I'm the one with the power so I can do whatever I want. You want fairness. Bullshit, he spat, before turning the blade in his hand. And Axel's screams began. Flashback. End. Axel snapped out of his memory as the gates he had blasted with Bombarda fell to the ground. And it made him all the more determined in what he was doing. With his skills, he could have ended this as easily as breathing using his stealth skills. But that wouldn't have given him much satisfaction. The bastard had tried to carve into him the fact that he'd always be a fucking rat without following him. And now he's here to shove those words in the bastard's face. But of course he's not going to be completely reckless about it. His height was currently almost 6 feet due to the potion he had drunk. It was only temporary, but it'll do the job. Adding to his outfit, he can be assured that no one will know it's him. The explosion practically announced his presence to the whole villa and that was exactly what Axel wanted. Sounds of cursing, yelling of men and the screams of a few women started to come from inside the villa, and there was even a gunshot, indicating the fact that they were armed. There were at least 20 armed men in there, ready to welcome him. But Axel didn't back down in the slightest. Guns might scare other wizards, but not him. He's not just an ordinary wizard. Even the Arcane Thief can't simply define who he is. Aside from being a wizard and the Arcane Thief, he is also the person with an insane amount of mental talent. In the past, he wasn't able to fully utilize it due to his lack of magical ability, but that was no longer the case now. The spells that require extreme mental power, and the spells which can display incredible might based on your mental prowess. Those were his domain. And after the attack from Damian Malcolm, he had made sure to utilize his talent to its fullest potential. Expulso. 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 As he walked along the driveway, he shot down those who tried to peek through the windows, breaking the glasses in the process. While doing so, he also took out a bundle of weapons containing shields, swords, and knives which were all wrapped up. The door opened and he pushed whoever it was back with another expulso. "Let's keep it indoors, shall we?" he said to no one in particular as he walked into the villa and closed the doors behind him. As soon as he was in, he dropped the bunch of weapons he had been carrying to the floor. "Man, that was heavy," he muttered as he took out his other wand. "Hey! Who the fuck do you think you are?" shouted someone even as more and more of the gang started to come into the large hall of the villa. The number of guns pointing at Axel kept increasing. But he didn't flinch as he kept waiting. Axel wasn't scared of the guns. He was wearing the custom-made enchanted clothes he got from selling his memories. They should be able to take a bullet or two. After a proper number of guns were pointed at Axel and all the gang members were present, only then did the boss strut in with a cigar in his mouth and a gun in another. "Gentlemen, what a rude way to enter someone's home. I assume you are prepared for compensation?" he asked calmly. Axel's grip on his wands tightened when he saw the bastard. After almost 3 years, he still looked the same, horrible scars all over the face and an air of superiority. His cherub core wand responded to his anger as it emitted dark red sparks. And Axel chuckled darkly, "I'm indeed here for compensation, you bastard." Saying so, he pointed his wand at the stack of weapons lying on his feet. "A puño totalis," he muttered after gathering all of his focus. At once, all the weapons started to shake. After which they began to rise individually, making all the men present startled. Johnny Scars had a bad premonition after seeing that unusual sight and hearing that voice. "Put him down," he ordered. At once, gunshots began to be fired at Axel from various directions, making the situation chaotic. "Too late," said Axel as the rectangle shields he had stolen from Hogwarts assembled in front of him with a wave of his wand. A puño is a common spell that is used by many wizards to make animate or inanimate objects move to perform a specific action. It needs a lot of mental power. A puño totalis, on the other hand, grants total control over multiple objects. The amount of objects you can control depends on your mental talent, and unlike a simple puño, different objects can be controlled to perform different actions. But it's like trying to write different things with different hands. Few can really pull that off perfectly. Though Axel was a different case altogether. He stood there as the shields assembled themselves in front of him, blocking all the bullets. The veins around his temple became visible due to the strain. But he wasn't done yet. Arcane eyes, peering through the gaps of shields, his eyes glowed as he controlled the knife and daggers to shoot out in different directions at once, stabbing into different victims with pinpoint precision. Though, his current limit was 2 at a time if coupled with the shields that were hovering around him. This method was great because the projectiles were being controlled by his mind, not by his unsteady hands. So the process was much faster and more precise. "Bullets aren't working. Stop shooting and rush in," ordered Scars after seeing more and more men falling very rapidly. The hail of bullets stopped and men were now able to close the distance, thinking they could take him out in close range. But of course, they couldn't have been more wrong. The closer they are, the worse their situation. Anyone who approached close enough was taken down either by a knife or a spell from the other wand in his hand. Soon, dozens of men were taken down and Axel saw Scars slowly slipping out of the room. "Nope, not a chance," he declared as he took down the last few stragglers unhurriedly. He stepped on one of the shields and controlled it to fly after the bastard while the rest of the shields were still assembled around him. Seeing no escape, Scars turned around to face Axel. "Hey man, why don't we talk this out? You already destroyed my whole fucking gang. I can give you whatever you want, yeah." Looking at the man, Axel really felt disgusted. These types of people will pretend to be all high and mighty and do whatever they want when they're in a position of power. But as soon as you take that away from them, they're nothing. Axel shook his head. "You don't get it, Scars. You don't get it," he said, throwing the words that he still remembered quite well to this day. "Expelliarmus," he muttered, making the gun shoot out of his grasp. Does this guy not realize how obvious his intentions are? He was going to shoot just after making Axel think he won and let his guard down. He pocketed the wand and let the shields drop. "Now we're talking," he said, taking off his mask. Scar's eyes widened. "You." Axel grinned. Surprise, motherfucker. "How is this possible?" he began, but Axel cut him off. "That I'm no longer a rat." "Don't tell me you're surprised," he said, shaking his head. "You always knew this day would come, didn't you? You saw it on the very first day," he said, making the man speechless. Axel had seen it in his eyes. "The reason why this man came after him from day one, you were envious, weren't you?" he asked, making the man flinch. Yep, this guy only wanted to make himself feel better by crushing him when he was still growing. Scars laughed forcefully, "But you're still a rat, aren't you? Relying on these parlor tricks. Why won't you face me straight on, man to man?" Axel shook his head. "You don't need to try so hard. There's a reason why you're still completely unharmed," he said, putting his wands on the floor. "Catch it," he said as he lightly threw out a knife to the man. Hope returned to Scar's face as his eyes followed the knife sailing through the air, ready to catch it. This kid is an idiot. There's no way anyone can beat him, Johnny Scars, in a knife fight. He's going to. Johnny's thoughts were cut off as he felt an excruciating pain below his abdomen. He looked down to see another knife stabbed into his pelvis, right through his little brother, cleanly severing it from his body. The knife he was going to catch bumped uselessly on his head and he fell to the floor in pure agony. "Orororf. You. Why didn't I give you a chance? Is that what you want to ask? Haha. How naive are you, Johnny? You wanted a fair fight. That's quite rich coming from you." Axel laughed in pure amusement, as if he hadn't just severed a man's penis. The reason why Axel had left him unharmed up to now. It was because he wanted to give him hope. And then take it away once again. You gang up on a 9-year-old and torture him for no reason. And now you want a fair fight. Axel was laughing so hard that he was having difficulty breathing. "You really are one hell of a hypocrite, man. Oh, sorry, I forgot, you are no longer a man," he exclaimed, pointing to the bloody mess that could identify him as a man. Scars couldn't believe this situation and his consciousness was hazy due to the pain. "No. This isn't happening, you can't do this, please. Stop," he was desperately hoping that it was a dream. Axel grinned. "What? You want me to stop? Why would I stop? I am now the hunter and you are the rat. I'm the one with power, so I can do whatever I want," he said, using the same words that were used on himself as he took out his knife from the man's pelvis. And the screams of Johnny Scars began. After he was done, sitting covered in blood, Axel put his mask back and went down and freed all the men from paralysis and poured some healing potion into their wounds. He was precise enough that none were able to run away and yet none were dead. Though one of the men had all of his teeth broken for some reason, but no one was complaining. The guy who'd broken Axel's tooth 3 years ago. Listen y'all. Your boss is gone for good. I'm your new boss. Anyone got any problems with that? He asked as he stood in front of the assembled men. No, boss. They all yelled in fear. None of the men even thought of rebelling. Everyone had heard the screams of their old boss. They didn't know much about this new guy. But they knew one thing. He's even more of a madman than their boss. And if anyone tried resisting, they were dead. Axel nodded, good. Now get me every valuable thing and all the money Scars had. I'll let you divide 5% among yourselves if no one tries to hide anything. You know what would happen if you tried to be smart. Go. He barked and the men ran with utmost loyalty. A while later, Axel stood speechless as he looked at all the things that Scars owned. Let them hoes go away, he said, directly indicating the 2 tied-up half-naked women. The men complied as they cut off their ropes. He threw the women a bundle of cash each. Go and try to make an honest living or whatever, he said, shooing them away. The women thanked him profusely before scurrying away. Axel looked around at the rest of the men, the rest of you. You're not allowed to keep unwilling women. Stop all illegal activities for now and lay low. Try other means of earning which do not include breaking the law. You're allowed to stay here and wait for my orders. Got it? Yes, boss. Good. Hey, you. Yeah, you in the back. You are the temporary leader in my absence, he said, pointing at a guy in the back. This dude had tried reasoning with Scars when he was torturing Axel. Arrange a phone with your number saved on it. Ah. Why? Yes, boss. The guy saluted and got to work while the others looked at him enviously like Christmas had come a day early for the guy. Tomorrow was Christmas. With everything done, Axel finally looked at the mountain of cash, drugs, and other valuables gathered up in front of him. This is going to be a long day. What is it? Asked Axel as he picked the call on his Magi mirror. Daphne's face came into view. When are you coming? And what's your address? We'll come and pick you up, she said excitedly. Axel sighed. He is homeless, what address is he supposed to tell her? I'm coming. You don't need to pick me up. I'll use the Flu network. Daphne nodded, okay, just remember the custom code of our house. Greengrass Manor. Yeah, I know. I'm hanging up, he muttered, about to cut the call. Wait. What is it? Do you have nothing to say to me? She asked a bit nervously. Axel didn't understand what she was saying and he was already half an hour late. So he said, hey, I'm already coming there. Why are you wasting time talking through this? He asked. Yeah, right. See you soon. She said as she hung up. Axel shook his head as he pocketed the Magi mirror. What a waste of time, as if she hadn't already told him 10 times. He was really regretting giving her his contact info. Sigh, the things I have to do to escape homework, he muttered. But what could he do? He was a busy man. He looked at the custom-made set of clothes from Madame Malkin's. They were self-cleaning, but he had still washed them since a lot of blood had splashed onto him when dealing with Scars, so he had washed them for his own satisfaction. He had given up rejecting these clothes now since they were bloody convenient and had decided to just send out the money to Andromeda when he has an abundance of it. The same was the case for the Magi mirror. He fiddled with the small dial on the inside and set it to another setting. Instantly, the clothes changed into jeans, T-shirt, and a denim jacket. Looking at his outfit, he just shrugged. This should do, right? He thought as he snuck out of the room in Scarza's villa using stealth. He had been staying here since yesterday. He'd rather not stay homeless in this cold weather like the previous times in favor of staying in this warm room. Though he had kept the windows which were covered in thick snow sealed shut and completely missed the bunch of presents lying on the window stool. And one of them had a name, Daphne Greengrass, written on it. After getting out, he took a cab to the Diagon Alley and went to the public flue. It's like the men's public toilet. Except there's a fireplace instead of the urinals and it's unisex. There was a stream of people coming and going from the place. He paid the entry fee and got in. It was Axel's first time using the Flow network, so he observed carefully as a person called out an address code and stepped into the green fire. Soon after his departure, a small amount of gray powder automatically dropped into the fire from the enchanted container above and the green fire started blazing again as another person stepped into the fire. Is it that simple? He muttered as he did the same and stepped out of the Greengrass manor gracefully. Hi. Are you my sister's boyfriend? Asked someone as soon as he found his bearings. An. How was the new magic? Christmas with Greengrass, she knows. Power Stones. Read ahead and support me on Patreon. Patreon.com/snollygoster. Chapter 37. Greengrass Manor, she knows. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hi. Are you my sister's boyfriend? Axel heard someone ask as soon as he got his bearings. He turned around to see a cute little girl in a princess dress looking at him curiously. She had brown hair and gray eyes. Axel knitted his eyebrows. No. Why would you ask that? Tori. Don't start speaking nonsense once again. Came Daphne's voice from afar, sounding unnaturally shrill as she hurried down the stairs while holding her dress. She was wearing a green strapless dress that came down to her ankles. I'm sorry if she said anything inappropriate. She likes to create trouble, said Daphne while glaring at Astoria, who stuck out her tongue. Davy told us a lot about you, said Astoria as if she was telling a secret. Ah, okay, I'll bite. What did she say? She, began Astoria, but Daphne put a hand on Astoria's mouth to stop her from saying more. I'm saying it again. Don't believe a word she says, said Daphne in warning. Axel shrugged. Whatever. It's not like it matters. Daphne sighed in relief as she finally smiled. So, welcome to my home. You look really great in that outfit. I've only ever seen you in uniform or training clothes, she said, giving him a once-over. Axel just nodded, but then he saw Daphne looking at him expectantly, making him confused. You look great too. Is that what she wanted to hear? Judging by her smile, that seems to be the case. Though in his honest opinion, her dress was making him feel uncomfortable in his casual clothes. Axel didn't know that nothing fancy meant this fancy. Daphne had said it was just a family dinner. Daphne. At this moment, an elegant woman walked from inside. The woman was beautiful, with brown hair, and soft features, but looking into her blue eyes, Axel could see that she had suffered various vicissitudes in her life. The woman seemed to study Axel minutely, and her gaze lingered on his hands. For a moment, Axel saw her clemency mask crack to show some emotions, but it might be his imagination as she smiled politely at him. You must be Axel. I'm Daphne's mother, Evelyn Greengrass. I've been dying to meet you. Axel looked at the woman who was that bastard's ex-wife. Daphne had told him that she had celebrated all night when the man had died. So, instead of resentment, he rather had a good impression of her. Thanks for having me for dinner, he replied politely. Though he actually wanted to say, you shouldn't have invited me. But since he's here, he'd rather be done with this dinner quickly without coming out as an asshole. It's just that he wouldn't be in this situation in the first place if he hadn't been dumping all his work to Daphne for the better part of the semester. Mrs. Greengrass smiled. The dinner will be ready soon. Daphne, you can show him around or play in the meantime, she said, leaving them to their devices. Axel gave Daphne a look. You said dinner was ready half an hour earlier, he said in irritation. Daphne looked away, trying not to show how pleased she was with herself. Oh, did I? I don't remember. Come, I'll show you around, she said, walking ahead. Astoria walked beside him. She lied, she whispered helpfully. Axel shrugged as he followed. At least it's a good thing that he came half an hour late. As expected from the man who kept that much amount of money as chump change in his pouch, the manor looked quite extravagant and well furnished. That's the Christmas tree, she said, pointing at the huge tree decorated with various magical gimmicks. This is our first time decorating one by ourselves. Usually, that man wouldn't allow us. He'll get it done perfectly and then host a ball or have us attend one, she explained. You were going to say that word again, right? Asked Astoria while giggling. You've been using a lot of bad words after coming back. Daphne slapped her forehead and then glared at Axel as if it was his fault. Which Axel only gave her a clueless look. She then brought him outside. Now, let me show you the reason why we're called Greengrass, she said, pointing at the vast expanse outside their gates. We run plantations and greenhouses of potion ingredients. We supply plant-related potion materials to various sellers like Big Owl. Aside from that, we also run potion shops, so, Big Owl, the company he has been ordering his diet ingredients from, got its plant-related potion ingredients from the greengrass. This is huge, muttered Axel, looking at the vast expanse. Daphne nodded. That's what everyone says, she said proudly as if he was praising her dick. Tori. Don't go outside. It's not safe outside the wards. She said as she followed Astoria, leaving Axel to look at the view. Axel had some idea about her family business, but he hadn't expected it to be this massive. The plantation seemed to stretch for miles and there were multiple greenhouses with workers working. But her words reminded him of something else as well. Revenge wasn't the only reason he had gone out of Hogwarts this Christmas. He had various other things to handle as well. And one of them was that, some potion recipes for the training of his Arcane Thief class had been unlocked for a while now. But he couldn't make them himself due to his low dexterity. So, this was something he was supposed to figure out during this time. At this moment, Daphne's magi mirror beeped, bringing him out of his thoughts. The dinner's ready, shall we go? She asked. They made their way to the dining room where they all sat at the end of one long table. Mrs. Greengrass smiled as she looked at her family. Usually, we're always either hosting balls or attending one. But this year, we didn't do anything, explained Mrs. Greengrass. Axel wanted to ask, then why invite me, but he didn't as he looked at all the food piled up on the table. Turkey, cranberry sauce, Brussels sprouts, stuffing, gravy, roast potatoes, braised red cabbage, roast carrots, and the list went on and on. Looking at the tempting meal, he sighed. Well, this looks delicious. But I must follow my diet, he said, taking out his lunchbox. After almost half a year, he had now totally started to follow the diet. X3 Everyone at the dinner table was surprised and confused. Axel looked at everyone. I'm sorry. I've been on a strict diet since I've been trying to recover from my injuries, he said, opening up the lunchbox. Daphne had warned her family about his injuries, but not about this. Evelyn looked at Daphne. Daphne, why didn't you tell us he's been following a special diet? I would have arranged it for him, she said in a chiding tone. Daphne looked like she had been slapped. I didn't know. He never sits at the Great Hall. I haven't ever seen what he's eating, she said in realization. Everyone looked at what Axel was eating. What is that? Asked Evelyn as she looked at the bizarre lunch from beside him. Axel shrugged. Some moon seeds, boiled dragon meat, boiled alchemy eggs, boiled wiggentree roots, fluxweed, etc. Why do you ask? He asked as he began to eat. Evelyn was shocked. Those are some expensive ingredients, she commented. Daphne picked some up and tasted, bleh, she spat it out on her plate. Have you really been eating that the whole time? She asked in shock. No, it's different ingredients every day. It's a weekly schedule, he informed. But, began Evelyn, that's not really food, is it? There's no flavoring and it's not even cooked, she said, looking at the food. Well, it's boiled, he defended. But Evelyn was unimpressed. As I said, it's uncooked. Axel couldn't understand the thinking of these rich people. Is it not good enough that he's getting food? Furthermore, it's edible, not harmful but beneficial, and it's bloody expensive. Why does the taste matter so much? Evelyn clapped her hands, calling an elf. She pointed at his plate. Tolly, make a nice dish out of this using healthy cooking methods, she said, pointing at his dinner. Yes, mistress, the elf left and his plate vanished. That wasn't necessary, said Axel helplessly. Evelyn shook her head. There's no way you are eating such bland food on Christmas Eve, she said firmly. Daphne gave him a look that he couldn't quite decipher. Is that why you've always rejected every time I've offered you snacks? You can't eat anything else? She asked, recalling all the times she'd eaten snacks during class while he rejected them. Even that time at the VIP box, he didn't eat any popcorn. Well, it's not like I can't, but I shouldn't, if I want the most benefits. Why do you ask? He asked. Nothing, she now felt really bad. It's not that he didn't want to eat them. He just couldn't eat them in hopes of a recovery that might never come. And all that while, she ate those delicious things right in front of him. Along with feeling sorry, she once again felt the familiar disappointment. Axel knows everything about her and yet he hasn't let her know much about him at all. Maybe only she is the one who wants to be friends. He still hasn't said anything about the gift she had sent him this Christmas after all. It made her recall the time when she had prepared a Christmas present for her dad with so much effort and yet, he hadn't even bothered acknowledging it. No. Let's not think about it. Axel and the asshole are worlds apart, she said to herself as she looked at him enjoying his food. Maybe just didn't like the gift. Astoria looked at Axel in a new light. Right now, she wasn't smiling like she always does and wasn't as talkative. Axel's dinner came soon and he was surprised to taste it. It's delicious, he muttered, his eyes closing involuntarily for tasting good food after so long. Click, a clicking sound came from his side, followed by a giggle, making him infuriated. You are going to delete that, he muttered. No. I'm not kidding, delete that. Over my dead body. Overall, the dinner went rather well and Axel felt that perhaps it wasn't such a waste of time coming here. But after dinner, just as he was about to leave, something unexpected came up. Axel, I need to talk to you about something, could you please spare me a minute? Asked Evelyn, making him pause. Axel shrugged, all right, Daphne, Astoria, could you two please leave the room? I need to talk to Axel about something. What is it, Mom? Asked Daphne in puzzlement. Evelyn shook her head with a serious look. Go, okay, I'm waiting outside. Since her mom rarely used this look, Daphne didn't protest anymore as she left while dragging Astoria. What is it? Asked Axel. Evelyn picked up her Magi. Mirror and showed him a picture. It was of Axel standing in the woods. Just when he was about to ask why she was showing him this, Evelyn zoomed into one of his hands, and Axel's eyes slowly widened a little but he controlled it. He still feigned ignorance. That's my hand, what is it holding? A wand covered in leather. Why do you ask, he answered. But at this point, he knew she knew. But the question was, how? To avoid this situation, he had wrapped up the wand in leather. Could you please tell me where you got it from? She asked desperately. Axel paused. He couldn't just say, I got it after I won allegiance by killing your husband, as the system had informed him. Or could he? Power Stones. Next update will be double chapters, whether it's tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, so just keep giving the power stones. I'm doing this because I think I won't be able to take the abuse if I only post one at a time. They are pair chapters. So, I'll update as soon as I've posted 2 more chapters on Patreon. Read ahead and support me on Patreon. Patreon.com/snollygoster. Let me tell you something. On Patreon, he's healed. Chapter 38. A naughty misunderstanding. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Could you please tell me where you got this from? Axel paused. He couldn't just say, I got it after I won its allegiance by killing your husband, as the system had informed him. Or could he? No, let's not risk it, he thought. Accepting would be equal to admitting a crime. This woman may not resent him for her husband's death, but if he accepts, she will always have the power to get him a death sentence whenever she wants. I picked it up from the road, he said finally. It was technically true. Evelyn shook her head in disappointment. How did she recognize the wand? That's probably what you're wondering right now, aren't you? She asked him with a sad smile. Axel didn't say anything, but his silence was a loud agreement. When you have the same wand pointed at you multiple times, you just know, no matter if most of it is covered in leather, she said in melancholy, and Axel could see that her acclimacy was slowly going away, showing her real emotions. Axel looked away from those eyes. I'm sorry for what happened to you in the past. But I really can't help you with anything. Evelyn shook her head. I'm not asking for any help. I'm just asking you to hear me out. Then I'll say what I want from you, she said earnestly. Axel sighed. Go on, he might as well hear her out. Evelyn looked at her wine glass as she slowly swirled it. You know, deep down, I've always wished for his death. But there was nothing I could do. I was already bound by contract and bewitchment charms. I had given up hope a long time ago, she said, a hollow look coming to her face as she remembered the past. She then looked back at Axel as light returned to her face. But then one day, he was suddenly gone, finally leaving us for good, and I was finally free, as all the magic binding me failed when the person with whom it was keyed to disappeared. And that was the happiest day of my life. You cannot imagine how much it meant to me and how much gratitude I felt towards the person who had finally rid the world of that scum. I tried finding who it was, but I couldn't. And then, I saw the wand in your hand, she said as a smile came to her face. She stood up from her seat, surprising Axel. She had wondered how he got it and if he knew anything about the one who had killed her husband. And most of all, how was he able to use that wand? She felt extremely curious about the boy, especially since he was someone whom her daughter had befriended. I needed answers. So I tried to find everything about you, she said, walking around the table to stand on Axel's side. Axel listened to everything she was saying and he was still on guard. You checked my background. What did you find? He asked, feeling uncomfortable since she was standing too close. Evelyn smiled as she recalled her research, her acclimacy slipping further. Do you want to know what I found? She asked. She already knew that Axel was injured. Finding out more about his injuries led her to know a shocking fact. Someone named Axel had been admitted to St. Mungo's on the same date as her husband. Though the rest of the records about him had been mysteriously removed. She also came to know from Daphne that Axel often keeps a knife around with him and is quite powerful. What a coincidence that Cyrus had been killed by a knife. And she also found out from Ollivander that the only reason her husband's wand would serve another is when he has been bested by someone. Knowing all this, she was smart enough to connect the dots and come to a conclusion. Her acclimacy shields dropped completely as she finally stopped resisting her emotions altogether. Axel was prepared for some questions, but Evelyn did something completely unexpected. I found that. You're the benefactor I've been looking for, she said as she gracefully knelt on the ground. Axel stood up in absolute surprise. What the hell are you doing? He asked hastily, his voice coming out loud after being completely bamboozled. Evelyn had a serious look on her face. I'm expressing my gratitude. Bowing is too small a gesture to express the magnitude of my gratitude, she said earnestly. Axel shook her head. Whatever it is, get up. Just don't kneel like that. He shouted uncomfortably as he tried to lift her up. Click creak at this moment, the door behind Axel opened and Daphne's voice came. Mom, what's all the noise up? Her words stopped abruptly in her throat as she saw the scene in front of her. What she saw was the back of Axel, who was gripping and kneeling Evelyn with both of his hands, whose face appeared to be quite close to Axel's legs. As soon as the door opened, Axel turned his head and Evelyn peeked from the side of Axel's leg to see a wide-eyed Daphne giving them a last glance before running off. Daphne, sweetie, it's not what it looks like. I swear. Exclaimed Evelyn as she rushed to explain. Meanwhile, Axel looked up at the ceiling blankly. What the fuck just happened? He muttered as he questioned reality. He recalled similar scenes when he'd sometimes walk into some alley to see some woman kneeling in front of a man, moving her head back and forth. Did it really look like that? What a bad timing she had. His life always manages to surprise him by taking the strangest of turns. He wondered whether everything was his fault. Was it his fault that he tried to rob a mad wizard? Was it his fault that he was rude to a hat? Was it his fault that he had precious ingredients lying around in his room since he never thought a troll might be wandering in the castle? The list seems to go on and he was too lazy to complete it. Now he only had one thought in his head. Will she still do my homework? Yep. So much happened, and this was what he was most concerned about. Why was Mum kneeling? Asked a voice, and Axel looked down to see Astoria looking up at him with curiosity. As he thought about how to explain it to the girl, he realized something else. How would Evelyn explain this to Daphne? She'll say, I was just kneeling in front of him. Why? To express my gratitude. What kind of gratitude? He killed your dad. Boom. It's game over for him once someone picks that off Daphne's unprotected mind. And he can't have that. Hogwarts is not a safe place. He already knows 3 people who use legilimency freely. Dumbledore, Martina, and Snape. He turned to Astoria. Where did your mom and Daphne go? Axel rushed to Evelyn to prevent her from speaking anything about him murdering a pure-blood lord. And it would seem that he had barely made it in time as he found the mother and daughter standing facing each other. How could you? Asked a furious Daphne, and Axel saw that Evelyn didn't seem to be thinking smartly right now. She's definitely going to tell her. He realized. Sweetie, it's not what you think. Your mom was just helping me with something, he said as he rushed to stand between the two. For a moment, all of them stood in silence in which he signaled Evelyn not to speak about it. But then Daphne shook her head. Oh, what was she helping you with? Well. Axel paused. Axel had managed to rush here in haste, but he still hadn't thought of an alternative explanation. Daphne shook her head in disappointment. I need to go. Wait. I swear she wasn't for doing what you think she was doing, began Axel. Daphne became even surer that something was up. No, you wait. First you didn't even so much as thank me for the gift I put so much effort into, and now this. She shouted as she left with tears in her eyes. Right now, she wasn't thinking straight. The image of her mother kneeling in front of her father came into her head once again. That was the real reason. Not some weird bullshit like her mother giving a blowjob. She's not foolish enough to misunderstand it. In some ways, Axel is just like her father. Like how apathetic he is. Wait, what gift? Axel couldn't even ask her what gift she was talking about before she had left. But this time, he could at least warn Evelyn. Don't tell her about the murder thingy, he whispered, fairly nonplussed with the whole ordeal. Evelyn looked at him in confusion before her eyes widened as she slapped her forehead. Right. Of course, you could be in trouble. She muttered in realization. After that, Evelyn temporarily gave up on Daphne and decided to focus on finding ways to help the benefactor who was looking troubled. Don't worry, it's just a misunderstanding. She'll come around, she told Axel reassuringly to Axel. Let's first talk about your problems, shall we? Tori, will you go look after your sister? She asked Astoria. Okay. Astoria looked at the two of them before nodding and starting to leave. Though before she did, she turned around. Am I getting a new daddy? She asked innocently. No. Shouted Axel immediately while Evelyn began laughing, there'll be no more daddies here now, sweetheart. A while later, Axel was on his way back to his temporary gangster residence in Lambeth, still thinking about the series of events. After that, Evelyn had managed to persuade him to let her help with the ingredients for his potions and diet after repeated insistence. Though that was it for now. He wasn't going to give her the potion recipes to make them for him despite the fact that he could have a constant supply of those right from the next day if he does. The recipes are precious, and he can't risk them being stolen. He needs to think more about this. As he walked along the snow-covered streets, his ears picked up a conversation. Hey! Looks like that kid is loaded, Benji? Yeah man, looks like it's a Merry Christmas for us, Axel snapped out of his thoughts as he heard the voices from his surroundings. The taxi driver had dropped him off earlier than the destination due to the dangers of this neighborhood. And he realized that he had been walking in this dangerous place with expensive clothes on his back. This was just asking for trouble. The disdain he felt towards these people made him ashamed as he realized that Cyrus must have also felt similar disdain when he saw Axel. Hey, where did he go? What the fuck? He was right there. Axel just walked by the gang without doing anything. He wanted to avoid any similarities between him and Cyrus and he couldn't be bothered with these pitiful people right now. He wanted to think more about what happened today. He went into the room in Johnny Scar's villa that he had been staying in and laid down on the bed. As he recalled the events, Daphne's words came to mind. First you didn't even so much as thank me for the gift I put so much effort into, and now this. What the fuck was she talking about? Frowning, he looked at the window to see it completely covered with snow. He got up and opened the window that was completely covered in snow and voila, he found a pile of things wrapped in different types of wrappings lying on the snow-covered window stool. Are these Christmas gifts? He muttered in disbelief. He had never received a Christmas before this year. This day was getting more and more bizarre. There were actually people who'd bother sending him gifts. So, he did get Daphne's gift, huh? But what about the other gifts lying here? It's double chapters, so read the. Don't worry, the friendship isn't over with just a misunderstanding. He's still the angel who killed the man, right? Chapter 39. Gifts and Acceptance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gathering up everything, Axel sat at a table as he looked at the pile of gifts in front of him. This was quite a foreign experience, receiving gifts. Since he'd never received one before, of course, it never crossed his mind to buy gifts as well. So right now, he was quite confused as to what he was supposed to do. Is it okay to just accept them? Should he have sent them gifts as well? What if he doesn't want to send them gifts? What was he supposed to give them in return? What would be considered an ideal gift? If he got a great gift or an expensive gift, does his gift also have to be equally expensive or good, even when he is struggling with time and money? Seriously, why even exchange presents? It makes life so much more complicated. Sighing, he began opening the gifts at random. The first one happened to be from one Susan Bones. She had given him an expensive-looking box of chocolates. Axel would have tried one if he wasn't on a strict diet. The most he can do is thank her for her gift. The next one he picked turned out to be from Rose. He frowned. Rose would be the last person to send him a Christmas present. They had sort of a verbal confrontation just before the Christmas holidays. Axel decided not to open it for now. The next few were from unknown senders, meaning he had never heard these people's names and most of them were girls. He didn't open them in case his Slytherin attackers might have sent him some kind of dangerous present. Then there were presents from Andromeda and Bellatrix as well. He didn't open them as well. Axel finally looked at the present he was avoiding. From Daphne Greengrass. Yep, this was the one. He unwrapped it and opened the box to find a big stack of notebooks inside. Other than that, there were a bunch of potions as well. Axel picked up the note that was on the top. Dear Axel, Merry Christmas. I couldn't really find the gift I was looking for. So, I had to think of something else. Did you know that the teachers give the same homework every year? These notebooks contain the homework for the rest of the term and some of the second term homework. And this is without any favors or strings attached. How's that? It took me a lot of time to do this, but I don't mind since it's for the time you helped me out in the woods. Now, you might be wondering why I am giving you all the homework in advance if I could have just done it over the rest of the term. That's because I am going to ask you something. Can we be friends? Honestly, I'm tired of pretending we're just acquaintances while in actuality, you might be my best friend at Hogwarts. So, I gave you the homework already so that I know if you say yes, it's not because of that. I had always thought that only I wanted to be friends while you didn't give a damn. But I've begun to think my assumption was wrong. Otherwise, why did you even agree to my annoying demands? You had the option to reject. Why did you cheer me up when I was crying hopelessly? Your lame excuse can't be considered a plausible reason. Why did you also protect me from the spells when the danger suddenly came instead of only saving yourself? I never asked you this one. It's because we're friends, Axel, and it's because you care. And I want you to accept that. I'll wait for your reply. Best wishes, Daphne. P.S. My mom also wanted to gift you something as well, so I suggested the power nap potion. It revitalizes you properly even if you sleep a little. I'm tired of seeing you yawning every day with bags under your eyes. You're not going to start sleeping more no matter how much I tell you, so you might as well take these. No side effects. Tastes like shit though. Not that I've ever tasted shit. I'm going to stop speaking now, it's gotten so lengthy. Writing quill has grown on me while doing your homework. Axel put the letter down and laid down on the bed. He was supposed to read all this before going there. He recalled when he had gone to her house, Daphne had been looking expectantly at him and he couldn't figure out why. Well, guess the real reason was this. Until a few minutes ago, he had been feeling bad because he thought that he'll have to do his own homework due to Daphne being angry with him. But now that he already had the homework, how come he's still not feeling better? Whatever, he muttered as he quickly got up. He might as well train. Right now, there are 3 things he's been focusing more on. Ward breaking, arcane eyes, and occlumency. Ward breaking was the skill he had gained after getting the required SP, stealing points. And to say it was amazing would be an understatement. He quickly needs to master it. It not only has ways to detect a ward, but also ways on how to trespass it without tripping it. That's what a thief's main goal is, and it's usually a very difficult feat to achieve. He had discovered that the system's information was usually much more advanced, to the point, and practical than what the wizarding world had to offer. He had casually looked through the ward breaking of the wizarding world and realized that doing those things using their method of ward breaking included a fair amount of things he knew nothing about. So, there's no way he could have learned ward breaking at this stage without the system's information. To put it in simple words, if you want to solve a math problem, the Wizarding World's method will include lots of complicated equations and difficult calculations to solve it, but the system's method would let you solve it with one simple equation by training you to formulate that unique equation. But, he can't practice ward breaking right now since there are no wards present here. Arcane Eyes should be a better alternative to practice. It's an amazing skill that trains his eyes. Using this skill, his eyes can see things that are impossible to be seen. Its potential is huge, though it's equally difficult to level. But, it has stopped progressing since he needs a potion to make progress in this. He needs to fix that problem soon. This once again made him think back to the conversation he had with Evelyn. He had revealed to her that he had been given a diet and some recipes by an expert and he'd been unable to get the potions since he couldn't divulge the recipes to anyone else. Evelyn had volunteered to make the potions herself and even sign a contract to prevent her from using them or divulging their recipes to anyone. But he didn't feel comfortable making her sign a contract for even trying to help him. So she had suggested one of the potioneers who worked for the Greengrass Potions store. Having secret recipes isn't that uncommon, she had told him. Even the Greengrass family has more than a few secret recipes that they've been using the potioneers to them produce by using contracts to keep them secret. System, will you be able to check and modify the clauses of the contract? He asked. Affirmative. That's doable. Then, it was decided. He'll contact Evelyn and hire a potioneer. He'll use someone old who wouldn't have much ambition and won't try to find out what the potions he was making might be for. So, the potions issue will be solved within the week, but he can't practice the Arcane Eyes. The only thing on his priority list is now occlumency. Who is he kidding? There are a lot of things he can practice, but he's only going to focus on occlumency because occlumency first stage progress. 85%, every time he sees that thing, he can't help but put all of his training efforts into occlumency. He's so close. Just a few more days and he'll unlock the recipe that can heal him. Almost all of his memories are now organized and he only needs the shields now. Memory organization is usually the most difficult task in occlumency's first stage and talent can't help you much here since it's a time-consuming task. Most of the other occlumens either skip this process or do it improperly so they don't know the benefits. But after doing it himself and using the system's methods at that, Axel definitely knows the benefits. Most of our memories are a jumbled mess that keep moving here and there in our mind, always making our mind a chaotic mess that is already focusing on many things at once. But, after he organized his memories, they are no longer overlapping with each other, nor are they moving around. This has made it possible for his mind to put more of its focus on other things. Now he's able to use more of his mind than in previous times, and that is the reason why he was able to go so far with the Appunio Totalis spell without much practice aside from his mental talent. Though some memories are still unclear and his memories aren't yet organized into a structure yet, so he can still surpass his current limits of the Appunio spell. But that'll only happen when he trains the second stage of occlumency, so it's none of his concern for now. What concerns him the most right now is system. How long do you think the shields will take? With your talent, they should be done by the end of the Christmas holidays. That's it? He asked in surprise. He had passed the most difficult phase of occlumency and he was now very close to reaching his goal. After he was injured, the urge to focus solely on occlumency had been overwhelming, but he resisted. Because if he hadn't, sure he would have been able to achieve the first stage a little sooner, but he wouldn't have become so proficient in his stealth skills that he was able to evade being seen every day and hence evade all the troubles that came along with it. When no one sees you, they tend to forget about you. Aside from this, he wouldn't have been able to deal with a troll and wouldn't have been good at magic and his movements would have been still slow and stiff as before. So, when any trouble came, he wouldn't have been able to fight, nor evade, nor hide. But now, after training, he has mastered some things he wouldn't have with a fit body and he was even going to get the recipe soon. Axel's trembling hands started trembling even more. Though this time, it was due to excitement and anticipation. As the two-week break of Christmas ended, the unwilling students returned to Hogwarts riding the train on the new year. For Britain, this year was supposed to be similar to any other year of the past decade. Progressive. And it was. But there was one cause for concern emerging after so many years of peace. The crime rates this year had increased and lots of wizards were reported to have used powerful magic they shouldn't normally be able to wield. But of course, on a broad scale, it was being ignored or gone unnoticed by the lower levels of ministry, not even reaching the upper echelons. Gradually, a change was coming. And up to now, only one person had noticed it and tried to make his voice known. And the name of that person was Xenophilius Lovegood, the editor and director of Quibbler. But of course, his voice had gone unheard, ignored and mocked by those who read his conspiracy theories. People were too busy with their own life's issues to pay attention to such absurd possibilities. It was the same with Axel, who alighted the train at Hogsmeade Station with bloodshot eyes as he made his way to the carriages along with the other students. He had failed. Progress. 98%, he couldn't do it by the end of the Christmas holidays like the system had estimated despite putting in more time in it than the system had anticipated he would. He had even foregone his revenges on other people and small gangs who had given him a hard time during the previous years, including the family of the young master boy who'd gotten him kicked out from the Muggle school. All in favor of making his shields. Then why? System, why was I not able to do something that I should have been able to do a few days early? He asked the system after giving up thinking about it. The reason is that your mental state is not in perfect order. Axel frowned. Why? You already know the reason. Axel cursed as he kicked a stone on his way. Of course, he knew. He just refused to accept it. It was Daphne. As far as he knew, she didn't befriend him to gain something and had tried her utmost to be his friend. He, on the other hand, had refused to accept it since he thought it was too much of a bother. Only after she had stopped being his friend and after not talking to her for a week did he realize that whether he believed it or not, he had come to value the one friendship he had secured in his lifetime. And he didn't want it to change. So yes, he finally accepted the fact that they were friends. Though the key word here is, were. It wouldn't have bothered him at all if she was the one at fault or if he was the one at fault. He'd have embraced the change as a part of life and moved on without thinking much. What bothered him was the fact that no one was at fault here and it was all just a stupid misunderstanding that was difficult to clear. Axel kicked yet another stone as he walked and he stopped walking when he saw the stone stop near the hoof of a creature. His gaze climbed up to see a bizarre winged horse-like creature standing there, attached to a carriage. Cute, he muttered. System, tell me, he ordered. That is a thestral. They are a species that originated from Netherworld. They can only be seen by those who have seen death. You'd be the only person who'd call it cute, said a voice from behind him. Axel turned around to see Martina standing there. Axel was still happy about the knife she had given him as a Christmas gift, so he tolerated being seen with her in public without showing his annoyance. Why am I not surprised that you can see them? She muttered, looking at him empathetically. She had seen of his bad memories and witnessing death wouldn't seem too far fetched considering his circumstances. I do find them cute. And why am I not surprised that you can see them too? He countered, referring to her family's reputation. Martina winced at the jab. She hadn't actually witnessed any death here. Her father and brother were extreme in their overprotectiveness. But she had witnessed her own death, along with many of her patients' death in her previous life so. Axel just remembered that he had some business with Martina. Hey, I have, he began but paused when he saw Daphne pass by them, not even giving him a glance. A vein popped up on Axel's forehead. This was more annoying than he had thought. It was even affecting his training. All right, you won, he muttered finally as he made up his mind. He had had it now. He was going to clear this misunderstanding. She won. They were officially friends now. He shelved his business with Martina later and as he went after Daphne. An. So, the title is A Friend and a Recipe. Power Stones. Double chapters, so I'll need 2 days worth of stones for that. If you want to read ahead and support me, come to Patreon. Patreon.com/snollygoster